Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the public hearing of March the 20th, 2014. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And record of attendance, I guess, Linda. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Ask for the approval of the agenda. Second, okay. Moved by Madeline, seconded by Sandy. Any questions? I didn't ask for additions or deletions. Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. First item of business, and we have some presenters, and I'll introduce them. Two people, Mark Willett and David Wallace. Mark, wave your hand. And David. So I'll read off the application. These people are going to present to us. I'll read off the application just to start this part of the meeting, and then we can have a discussion around the table and or from the audience. An application to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw, in particular the zoning map, Schedule A, by rezoning 19 Kemp Street from institutional 1 to low-density residential R1, as outlined in the planner's report. Mark? David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Dave Wallace. My colleague here is Mark Willett. We work for a company called Untitled Properties. We're based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. We created a PowerPoint presentation for you to overview our proposal. We'll quickly run through it. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are, and then I'll pass it over to Mark, and he'll talk specifically about the project at hand. So our company, Untitled Properties, we're a full-service opportunistic developer based out of Halifax. We focus mainly in the Maritimes, primarily right now in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. We have 3 completed projects that we have recently completed, I guess, over the last few months, and we have, as you can see from the yellow dots, a number of projects ongoing right now. There's 5 staff that encompass Untitled Properties, and there's private investors behind our company as well. If you want more information about the company, please, you can visit our website at summerled.ca to find out all about all the projects and the individuals behind the company. Over the last couple of years, one of the major projects we worked on was in Windsor, Nova Scotia. We are presently going through a development agreement with the town of Windsor for a large 100,000 square foot retail development. It's just off the Highway 101 at exit 5A, kitty corner to the Tim Hortons and McDonald's. And so that's a large project that we're in the process of right now. This one you're familiar with, this open in the fall on Stars Road, the Chalanese Convenience. That's a project that we own. We have a land lease with the Sobeys organization. We also have a great pad site development. I was talking to the CAO before the meeting between Jungle Gyms and this development that we would like to start marketing for the town of Yarmouth for hopefully a new commercial retail tenant or a fast food component with a drive-through possibly. So. This project we did in Caraquet, New Brunswick 2 years ago, I guess. It's a large format, 50,000 square foot Sobeys store, and a 11,000 square foot Dollarama just moved into it. So the majority of our projects that have been completed, we're working on, have been primarily commercial projects. The one tonight that we're going to talk about is residential play. So I'll pass it over to Mark.
The Kemp Street site, which was for sale and is owned by the Roman Catholic Church, we have the property tied up. It's under our control right now, but they're still on it for the time being. We would like to, of course, to rezone it from institutional 1 to an R1 zone to allow for the development that we anticipate doing on the property. We were quite interested in the property due to its location relative to the golf course. We feel that there could be a demand for, retired individuals or even people that like golfing a lot to be located as close to the golf course as possible. So that's what we're looking at doing. It'd be low density, of course. At one point, we considered a higher density, but we dropped it off to semi-detached dwellings and 1 single-unit dwelling. This is, of course, the site. There's a ball field located on the property, and this is where we would undertake our project. It's just some views of the golf course and our property. We've been across the Maritimes in our dealings with Summerlid. We came across a lot of development that has single-story townhouses or single-story semis, and they seem to be in great demand in other places in Nova Scotia and also in New Brunswick. A lot of people, like especially retired individuals, seem to like them a lot because of, when they think about the future and whether it be mobility issues, being on one single story is important for them. And we feel that we've seen it in different markets, and we think that it could apply here. Again, these are some views. Basically, what we're looking at doing is doing a public street and then having these semi-detached dwellings and the single-unit dwelling. The reason why there is 1 single-unit dwelling is what we anticipate doing is rezoning to R1 and then meeting the land use bylaw requirements. So once it's rezoned, be as of right. Basically, the units would be turned towards the public street because we felt that it's a way of creating like a community within a community. However, we're aware that because of its location, we can't necessarily ignore what's around there. So what we thought we would do, and the planner actually had made some suggestions on our design, which we implemented in our proposal. We thought it was a good idea, which was to include porticos in the back and sidewalks and fencing and have, it's not shown here, but there would be some street trees, as you can see in this view, so that there'd be some sort of a way of screening a bit of the backyard, so that it's not unappealing from the street. So basically, they'd be turned towards each other, and then each unit would have an attached garage and about 2 bedrooms each. And they'd be of a traditional design with traditional elements, but still a contemporary, open concept within the building. The benefits of the community, we're looking at maybe a $3 to $4 million value in terms of construction. There will also be construction jobs, and our company, Summerlid, is actually associated to Dora Construction. But when we go into these communities outside of Halifax, we tend to hire local as much as we can, including consulting firms. If we need a firm for asphalting, we would be looking at local contractors. We also would source as much as possible construction materials from within the community or within the area, general area. In terms of economic development, we're looking at an enhanced tax base, and we believe that this type of development would complement well the golf course. So there could be synergies there that would be beneficial to the community in a whole. Now, this is our portion is finished, but we're more than willing to answer your questions.
I'm open for questions or discussion amongst our councillors and or anybody in the audience who wishes to participate. And go ahead, Garth.
Yeah, I have a question. What I'm seeing on these pictures, is that going to come right to the back of that fence to the golf course? Somebody's getting a window up. Right by golf ball. Like, and
Well, we would be, when we were doing construction, of course, we would have surveyors on site, and we wouldn't be building anything on the golf course lands, or we would meet appropriate setbacks from the golf course. Yeah.
I know where the fence comes out back for a while, and I'm not 100% if we gave it or we let the church use it as a ball field because they needed more room. And I think it was around 30 feet was the fence going in at one time. And if that is right up against that fence that's there now, I'm probably going to be the first one to go in.
Yeah, we can provide you a survey plan of the property and show you the exact boundaries of the property, just to clarify exactly where the property lines are. I've hit many houses in Truro Golf Course, Kenwell Golf Course. There's a lot of residential developments that abut closely to golf courses, so it's part of building next to a golf course.
But there is golf balls that go in there. And that would be my concern for you guys, right? Net, yeah.
I'm sure, I know our organization would want to work closely with not only the town of Yarmouth, but also the golf course. Right? Being a neighbor, we want to work with you. I'm guessing that the majority of tenants or property owners that would reside in this crescent would be possibly golfers as well. Right? So.
I mean, we have one hole there on the back. That, you know, you over to shoot the green, you're in his backyard too. But,
Yeah.
you know, but his houses are far enough away that it's never going to hit it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing here for the houses that they're going to come up right against where the fence is now. It's, you know, you're getting close to where we put the other landscapes. You know, it's great if you're going to come to do it. I don't have nothing against it. It's just that, you know, I don't want to see golf balls going into people's homes and coming up and drowning it out. Right? So that's my only concern.
And again, I just want to reiterate the fact that we're going to work closely with you to make sure that not only yourselves, but residents and safety will be concerned.
That's fine. Thank you.
In terms of the actual location of the fence, we did have an engineering firm do the engineering design, which they also had a surveyor on staff that walked the property and never mentioned the fact that there was a fence on our property that was an issue. So what you see here is the actual property that would be surveyed. And the reason why we go with a public road is it gives us the flexibility of either renting out the units or actually selling them without actually going to a condominium.
Thank you very much. 3 councillor lights. The first one I saw was Sandy. Oh, Phil, sorry about that. Phil, must have been Phil was
Thank
first.
you, gentlemen. And I know we have, even though the golf course is on the close proximity, we have probably the closest landowner is here today, and we've had other concerns from some people in the audience about drainage coming off the top of the hill and going onto the golf course. And that's just one concern, is what do we do with the wastewater and how's that going to work? And the other concern is from the house, if you're going up on Kemp Street on the right-hand side, sight lines to the harbor. Now, this house has probably been there 150 years, Bob? 1895, 125 years. So it's had a historical view of the harbor. And do you think this on the, I don't think the front ones will be a problem, but do you think on the back that it'll be blocking a view of the harbor that's been there probably for 130 years, as Bobby says?
Well, I've lived there for 15.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I moved there
In terms of the, if I may, in terms of the drainage issue, our engineering firm has been in contact with the town engineer. They submitted a plan to the town engineer, which the town engineer responded that he was in general agreement with what was being proposed to mitigate the issue of stormwater. So we feel that that can be dealt with, and so does your town engineer with his response by email to Danny Holloway, who's the engineer on this file. In terms of views, well, to me, development is progress, and sometimes progress cuts views from other people, but you can't really stop that. There is no protected, under the bylaw, to my knowledge, any protected view planes. So, I mean, you could always decide against us, but we feel that, someone's views shouldn't limit development.
Thank you.
Phil brought up the point that I was going to bring up was the drainage issue. So it's already been done.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we're all concerned about drainage. I live not too far from there, and that was everyone, and I think it still is everyone's favorite little dog park. And it does get wet from time to time. It gets very, very wet. But you will. I know that you will. You will address that issue. I know you will. I have certain concerns, and I looked at the plan. First of all, there are very, very few properties available like these anymore. Properties right on a golf course, right by the sea. View of the ocean, very, very, very few left around. We're very fortunate to have it.
This is the last one.
This is the last one where?
Maybe all around. I'm just joking.
No, don't joke. Make us feel good. Now, I understand, I hope I understood you correctly. Now, these are going to be condominiums. You will be selling them? You will not be renting them?
What we said is, or what I said earlier, is that we're actually doing a public street, so it gives us the flexibility of being able to rent the units or sell them. And by putting a public street, we avoid the condominium. We could actually sell them as of right by just cutting them as lots and actually selling them conventionally.
Okay. So you could be the landlords?
Our preference is to sell them, but if we run into issues in terms of sales, then we could have the choice of renting them out.
Okay. Everyone's concern is you are very, very, very aware of the housing that is in that area. And it is no one's desire to keep enhancing it. The planning of where subsidized housing is distributed in communities, that is what it's all about. It's planning the distribution of it and not to just push it all in one corner of a town. That is the major concern of the residents in that part of Yarmouth. And I'm sure that is not your intention, is it?
We actually feel that our product is superior to a lot of stuff in the area. And we don't make any bones about it. Okay. If you look at the renderings, I don't see any issues with the design.
Your artist your artist pictures, they do look nice.
Yeah.
They do. Now, I didn't see any guest parking there. That has already become a problem in another subdivision that was built recently. I see no guest parking. And then my last question would be would address the fencing that you are proposing that's facing Kemp Street.
In terms of guest parking, I think some of our original design did actually have guest parking. It doesn't appear so that we reserve guest parking in this one, but
No.
we actually can modify our plans to accommodate that. But in terms of when you look around other streets where there's on-street parking, this is a public street where this could be accommodated on-street. If you go in any other subdivision, my question to you is that do you require guest parking? This is no different than any other subdivision that you would have in the town of Yarmouth, where you have single or semi-detached dwellings. Well, there's typically a driveway, and there could be a garage, but there typically isn't any guest parking on a different lot. Because if we were to subdivide this into different lots, where do you put the guest parking? Do you create another lot just for parking? I guess that's something that we could talk about. I mean, we're more than willing to work with the town.
Okay.
I mean, we were working with the former planner, who we had a good working relationship with, and it was quite helpful in terms of design. We had told them they were more than willing to work with the town to have an appropriate buffer between Kemp Street and the back of the semi-detached. It was actually his ideas to include porticos, which we thought was a very valid point, and we did incorporate that in the design.
I'm sorry, to incorporate?
Porticos.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like
All right, then, thank you very much. You have, my last question was going to be that, Summerlid Properties, I'm sure, well, I know you'd be willing to work with the community on the project as it went forward. All right, thank you very much. But parking is a problem. It can be a problem on an inside, well, it's a street, it's a public street, but still an inside street. And if my front yard faces south, faces the golf course, I have someone parking in front of my house, and my neighbor directly across from me also has a visitor parking directly in front of their house, then that leaves just less than one lane, does it not, for through traffic?
If I...
That's just a question, but you'll come to that.
Yeah.
At a later date. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other, oh my gosh, go ahead, whoever was first.
I won't be long-winded, Jim.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you for choosing Yarmouth. I've seen some of these projects, and they look the same to me as they are up around Kings County, and a few other places in the valley. They look similar. And I had a friend that lived in one. It's got the double garage. They look exactly alike. Exactly alike. They're beautiful homes, beautiful inside. They're nice. This is what developers like yourself are building. I think they'll complement our town no matter where you put them. I remember it's always not a good thing to block people's views, but then, like you just said, I mean, that's part of developing things. I bought a property, and it reminds me, when I bought a property, I had big dreams for that property. I developed it, and I had a third story. It was massive, and I had big plans for that, overlooked the harbor, the ocean, and everything. And I woke up one morning, and there was a lobster plant there. Blocked all my view. It wasn't one morning, it was a matter of time. And so I had to change my plans. I stayed in the same area, and I just built in a different place. But I'm not saying everybody can do that. I was very fortunate enough to find a place right where I wanted to build by the ocean. But I don't think you'll have too much problems with water and drainage if you're speaking into the engineer. I mean, the town of Yarmouth, it's not a high place there, nor is it a low place. When we have lots of rain, monsoon rains I call them, we flood everywhere, no matter what. We're rectifying that now. We have big plans for the town of Yarmouth to alleviate that, and hopefully we're going to be working maybe this year on them. But I'd like to see this plan go through, even though some people in that area, I think once these are built, it'll complement their buildings, their homes. It will also bring up their value, And I think the type of people that are going to be living there, I think are going to be, as what we're trying to get into as a senior community. That's what we're promoting. I mean, if you look at what we have in the town of Yarmouth, we're probably 85 to 95% of seniors, and there is a market for these. And I'm tickled to death that you're here, and that you are developing these. We sit around this table and planning sessions that, just dream of guys like you guys to come and beat on our doors and come in and say, we want to develop to certain areas. I hope this is not the only area that you're looking at. I hope that you are aware that the town of Yarmouth, has a surplus of lands, of lots. We have lots of land that we are sitting on. And if you have a chance to look at some of the properties that we own, you might be interested with this or with other developments. They're there. We have a map of them. So I just want to make you aware of them. If you're not aware of them, we do have them. And I'm sure the CEO and the mayor would like to work with you to see what they could do to help you out. But anyway, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in and say that when you do projects like this, you're not going to please everybody. I think you've got it right. I looked at what your presentation, what you were doing. You people are what I call are professional people, and you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. This is not your first development, and I think you'll be very successful in this. And I think the people around the neighborhood will work with you. Once you start going, they will work with you. It can only be good things for the neighborhood and for the town of Yarmouth. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Danny. Ken?
Thank you, Jim. I'm not going to be as long. I'm just going to say thank you. I think Councillor McIsaac and some of the others commented. It's very encouraging to see you take the interest in our town, to come down and to look at that. This is a nice piece of property, and as Councillor McIsaac alluded, there will be changes. I mean, I've lived in the same house for 30 years, and I've had a variety of neighbors, good, bad, indifferent, and changes happening. Right now I'm facing a catastrophe with a church coming down, and my house may be engulfed by water. I'm just being facetious here. I want to give the mayor a laugh here tonight. She needs a laugh. We've been a long day, hasn't it, Pam? Anyway, but I want to say thank you, guys. It's very encouraging. It's an exciting project. I think it's going to do a lot. I know you're going to work with the neighbors. I know that it's a neighborhood project, and I know that you don't want to inconvenience anyway. I've looked at your website. I've looked at your background, and put it this way, there hasn't been a lot of torches and pitchforks driving you out of any town that you've been in, put it that way. So you've been well received in the communities you work in. So thank you very much.
One more comment in the audience, Martha Cassidy. Hi, Martha.
I read the town engineer's report that expressed some concerns about the drainage issue. I've been exercising my dog in that ballpark for the last 4.5 years. Occasionally wet isn't the right word. It's occasionally dry. Because everything comes down from the golf course. And I might add, there's also a curling club there. So it's a two-barrel thing. But the water's coming
Martha, thank you very much, as always. Randy, you indicated Randy Fells.
I'm the president of the Yarmouth Golf and Country Club, and Curling Club, actually. My comments are very much echoing the rest of them. Just, you guys have already said at the beginning that you know you're developing next to a golf club. There are 6 o'clock starts. If you're focusing on seniors, people like that, we start golfing at 6 o'clock in the morning. There will be a lot of traffic coming up and down there early in the morning. So as long as the clientele we are looking at knows that this stuff goes on, then we're good with it. Also, we use, I'll just echo the rest of it, along the straining side, we use a lot of water in the fairways, we use a lot of fertilizer, we use a lot of chemicals. Hope you guys are taking that into consideration as well. When that stuff gets washed into the backyard, you're going to see things just sprout up because that's what we use to grow the fairways and the greens. So there's a lot of chemicals, there's a lot of stuff run off of that as well. As long as you know that the golf club is there, we have no problems with the development and no problems with any of that.
Thank you, Randy. Mark and Dave, you've had taken...
Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Mark and Dave and Bobby and Martha and everybody. But, you know, it kind of, I like the idea of the development, and I know that you want to be good neighbors. I'd like you, maybe if you could take a moment and talk to Bobby, which is the nearest landowner, right there, Mr. Morton. He said he's been there 15 years. Maybe, have you visited, maybe go down and have other look just to see the sight lines? And I'd like, you know, it's nice that the development comes in and we need the money, we need the jobs, we need all the economic activity that comes with it, and we need especially the tax base after what we've done over the last several days with our discussions on the budget. But we have to live here for the next 25 years, and Bobby made a conscious effort of buying a piece of property in Yarmouth South when some of those properties weren't selling the best, and he made a conscious effort because of the location and because of the sight line. So if we have a development of this magnitude going in, I'd like those guys to be good neighbors and go down there and maybe have a talk with Mr. Morton and do some sight line planning to see what really takes place. And in regards to what Martha Cassidy was saying a little earlier, Martha, if you go down to business, under K, we have Dog Park from Councillor Langell is going to be bringing up that very issue tonight. So that's another thing that we'll be talking about. But, you know, I'm kind of, I feel for Bobby. I know we need the business. I know we need the economic activity. I know it's going to be a great development for that area, but to cut somebody off that's had access to that property for 15 years, as Randy and Garth knows, I've probably spent as much time as anybody in that end of town for the last 40 years. I know that property inside and out, especially the right-hand side of the golf course, right, Randy? I don't know too much of the left-hand side of the golf course, but I know every spot on the right-hand side. But I'd just like you guys to talk to Bobby. He has some concerns, and maybe you can alleviate some of those and just kind of welcome you guys to the neighborhood.
Pam.
Yeah, exactly what Councillor Mooney said, and what Martha said as well, that all that's taken into consideration. When I look at this, and I look at our list this evening, and I see seniors community on our list of to-dos, this one just makes me smile, because I think a list of people that head to Florida to live on a golf course all winter, and I think all the people that just want to come here and just, so it's just a perfect match. And I understand, is it Mr. Nickerson? Yes. I understand that. You need to get Phil to teach you some golf. If you're shooting at windows, you're in trouble. No, that's what I understand. But anyway, I just think it's exciting, and I think the people that live there are going to completely get the value of living right on a golf course. So thank you from us to you for coming. Appreciate it.
So thank you very much, Mark and Dave. Oh, sorry about that. Hi, Sandy.
And I just want to echo the same and want to thank you for wanting to invest in Yarmouth. Thank you.
Mark.
I just wanted to make a point. Marta brought the point that there was a report, and I mentioned the problem with the stormwater, and it's true, there was a report done up, and it was during the Planning Advisory Committee, but since then we've been in touch with the town. Our engineer has been in touch with the town engineer to bring a solution to the issue. We, unfortunately, during the Planning Advisory Committee, we were on our way to come to Yarmouth, but had to turn around due to the weather situation. There was a snowstorm that day, but we were made aware of the issue by the planner, and we did get in touch with the town engineer after that fact.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're all set for this part of the public hearing. Thank you very much, everybody. Anybody else that hasn't spoken that wishes to speak? Thank you very much. Hearing no more. Bob. Martha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's used by a lot of people, dog owners, and I don't think it's good to lose the green area. There's a lot of other places where that development could go in there.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be near the golf course. I don't think it's good to lose the green spaces.
Mm-hmm. We're not making a decision. This is a hearing, Bob, to hear everyone's concerns, and I appreciate what you said, and we'll be very serious in our deliberations. Mark?
You know, the loss of open space like that is always unfortunate, but at the end of the day, this is a privately owned land, which is up for sale. The main reason, you know, just to address the fact that the president of the golf club is here, we did choose this location specifically because of the golf course.
All right, everybody, thank you very much. We want to move on to the second item on our meeting tonight, planning.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody in the audience. One of the better participation moments. So the next item is an application to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the MPS and the LUB to enable convenience stores, personal service shops, and restaurants in any designation by development agreement as outlined in the planner's report. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak? Martha?
Again, there's an issue with water. I'm concerned about that. But the second thing,
Come on. Come on up, just a little bit closer.
We're not on television, but
Yeah.
Well, we're streaming on the internet.
we're streaming,
Mark.
but just, they need to hear you.
Hang on, Mark.
Just grab the microphone. Sorry, Mark. There you go.
We're not on TV.
We're streaming. We're on the internet. We're not on TV.
Okay. I've already expressed a concern with regard to, again, the drainage of that property. I think I'm not against the development, but I haven't heard, and I didn't read anything that indicated that we had come up with a definite solution to the fact that that property is also wet. I haven't walked in it. I don't have the mud from that property. So I am concerned about that, and Arthur had suggested begins with B, a border at the back of the property, at the west end of the property. I think that's only in order to obscure the view of the graveyard. I think it won't do anything to help or ameliorate the drainage problem. The more we pave, the more problem we're going to have with water that has no place to go. I'm done.
Thank you, Martha. Jeff?
If I could
clarify, just for everyone's benefit, what we're doing in this application is amending the planning strategy and land use bylaw to enable development agreements for these kinds of uses. So the kind of site-specific issue that you're talking about is something that would come up in the development agreement process. Okay, and this affects more lots than just the one lot. This affects like lots throughout the town, and there is a map within the planner's report that identifies the other lots.
Did I understand that at the last meeting that you were indicating that each development agreement can then have specific
Yes.
provisions?
Yes.
Whereas if you just change all of the zoning, they haven't got that option?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Martha. Ken.
So just, I'm, again, I don't have the privilege or desire to be on the Planning Advisory Committee, but I just had a question. So hypothetically, John Smith at 47 Doe Street decides he wants to open a convenience store, a mom and pop convenience store. This gets approved. All he'd have to do is come into Town Hall, craft a development agreement, and it's done? Or does that have to come back through a process through council? Will the neighborhood have any input on that?
There's criteria set out, and and that whoever comes would have to meet the criteria. Yeah, Jeff.
Thank you, Worship. It's by development agreement and not by development permit. So the difference there is, under the land use bylaw, we set criteria for development in zones, and if you meet the criteria, you come in, you fill out the application, the development officer approves it, and away you go. In a development agreement process, an agreement is developed that kind of supersedes the land use bylaw and is required to go through the planning advisory committee and the council process, like an amendment to the land use bylaw. So it isn't you walk in, you meet the minimum criteria, and you get your go-ahead. You have to satisfy the PAC and the council that you've addressed all of the concerns that are site-specific to your development.
Thank you. My concern is the Heritage District, considering, because that's going to be the Heritage District. We have some pretty tight regulations in there of what can and cannot be done. And I don't believe that convenience stores or personal service shops are allowable in there. I don't believe right now. I could be corrected. And I just hate to see us change the fabric of that area. Or at least we'll have to go back to the Heritage Advisory Committee or somebody to review that process, because we've gone through that whole review of the Heritage District. The Heritage Committee has already done that. And this little clanger coming in, I don't know if that fits within the scope of that. So it's something we may want to be reflective of, because it would mean that if I'm reading this right, this will supersede the Heritage District and the Heritage District plan that we've in place for that area, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I don't believe there are any arterial streets that any properties in the Heritage District that front on arterial streets. I believe that is a criteria within this. So you can be in any designation, but you have to meet certain criteria.
Okay.
And one of them is a very busy street.
Good. Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else in the audience? The public hearing, I believe, is now over. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll move on to the next meeting of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Fort Soil Field, yeah. Yeah.
Good topic there, EV.
Oh, yeah.
You got a good proposal for us here? That's big bucks, then.
I wonder if they know. We good? Yeah. Okay. He just turned the heat on. We're 25 minutes late, but it doesn't matter.
5 minutes late?
25.
Yeah, we're 25. Early for what? Early for being late? Oh, that's right.
Well, we'll call the meeting to order. Let's stand for the singing of O Canada. Everyone with their cold. Record of attendance, Linda? Good. Approval of agenda, any additions or deletions? And I'm going to put those under 11. Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
Jamie Bailey, please. Honorable Jamie Bailey.
Okay, I'm going to put that 11A. And did you have one, CAO? Did you want to change the, go ahead, Councillor Lanjo?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple. The item on, I didn't put my number here, on deer control under business arising, that
Yes.
I'd like to delete that. I spoke with the
Okay.
CAO on that earlier,
So
and that's
we're
been
gonna-
looked after.
We're taking out 7A.
Yes, please. And
Okay.
I'd also like to delete saltscapes. That was dealt with in committee of the whole.
And we're taking out 8H.
Okay. And I'd like to add one item, a proposed procurement policy change. Proposed procurement policy change.
That's under 11B. Post-procurement policy change.
Proposed procurement,
procures.
procurement policy
It's the
change.
triple P change.
Yeah.
We'll get that. I didn't hear the proposed either. Okay, and CAO? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. My only addition comes under date of next meeting. So I want to propose a change there according to our bylaw, so we'll discuss that at that time if it's okay.
So we can just do that under, when we get to 13.
13,
We don't
right.
have to add that as a change. Okay. My apologies. Councillor Lanjo? Go
Yes,
ahead.
Your Worship, and I think too, we should also, the CAO, you mentioned next meeting, you're referring to the April meeting. We also should be looking at the May meeting because of UNSM Spring Workshop is falling during that period. So depending on how many of us are going, and just if.
Okay, we'll do that when we get there. Anything else? Can I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda with the changes? Moved by Councillor Lanjo, seconded by Councillor Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Approval of minutes. Town Council, February 13th, 2004.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney, second by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, February 19th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney, second by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, February 20th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney, second by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, February 27th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney, second by Councillor McIsaac. Discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, March 4th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney and a tie between Councillor McIsaac and Councillor Dennis. I have to say, Councillor Dennis, good slide in there. Any discussion on that?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. And I had another one, I had today's actually, they added, March the 20th, Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
Moved and seconded by Councillor McIsaac.
Question.
Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Excuse me. Business arising. We're going right to 7B, first reading property tax exemption bylaw. CAO.
Your Worship, we discussed this at an earlier Committee of the Whole meeting. I had given the Council a heads up that we were proposing changes to this bylaw. The primary reason is that the full amount that's budgeted on an annual basis is not fully utilized, and so by increasing the maximum household income as well as the amount that each applicant might be eligible for, there's a greater chance that we will use the allocated budget for the purpose it's intended, and obviously provide more assistance to people in the town of Yarmouth who are having difficulty with their taxes.
Thank you. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. That's a great idea. Jeff, could you do you have the figures on that? What you're bringing it up to for the public, so they would know, or do you have them with you, Jeff? If you could just blurt it out there for the public. Thank you, Your Worship.
Sure, I'll blurt it out. The changes are, so this is a property tax exemption bylaw. It's for people with low income. And so we had a maximum household income, household family or household income of 21,000, and the proposal is to increase it to 25,000. And we had set a maximum per application of $500 to be received, and the proposal is to increase that to up to $750. And for several years, we have been allocating $30,000 in our budget for the purpose, and we have been using 50 to 60% of the allocated funds for the purpose, and it's anticipated with these two changes that we'll open it up to more people and perhaps use the entire allocated budget. But of course, there is a maximum, and we cannot exceed that budget in the process. And if the amount of eligible applications exceeds the amount available, then everyone's is just prorated.
Yes, certainly. I just got to get the, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So what a person that is in that category, what they would have to do, is there a route, something they have to do? Do they have to phone you, the CAO, phone the mayor, phone a counselor? How do you go about doing this, CEO? I hate to put you on the spot, but if you could explain this, it would be beneficial for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So we have an application process, and the application process requires obviously some personal information about household income. We require some documentation from tax returns to verify that. And once we're able to verify that, we verify the number of applications. We have a deadline. Then we do the allocation, and again, if it exceeds the 30,000 in applications, then we'll simply prorate, and everybody who is eligible will receive some assistance.
Councillor Langeau.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I agree, it's a wonderful thing. My only concern is to the CAO. Do you think the word is getting out sufficiently to those people who need it? I know we advertise in the Vanguard, and with all due respect to the Vanguard, it is a small medium. We do have radio, I know that as well. And again, many of these people may not be great in the social media because you're not dealing with your high-income earners, so shall we say. Has there been any thought, or maybe we do, of maybe putting this in with the tax bills or in with the water bills to let people know that this is available? Because I somehow think that maybe one of the reasons why we're not being used as much is lack of knowledge. And the reality is, well, even if you place an ad in the Vanguard, you know, you pay for an ad, people just gloss over it. They don't even notice it. It's very hard unless it's a headline story or something like that. But I'm thinking if we even would consider using either a little insert in our tax bill or in our water bill, might just to let these people know that this is available or this program is available.
Okay. Do you want let CAO answer that one, and then we'll get your fill.
Yeah, I tend to agree that it is awareness is the issue. When you think back to the presentation I did a couple of months ago and talked about the median household income in the town of Yarmouth being $36,000, it's pretty difficult to believe that we can't give away $30,000 for tax relief to people with an income of $21,000 or less. So by increasing it to 25, that will help in one regard. But your suggestion in terms of notification within the tax bills of this opportunity is a good idea. And I'm not sure if we do it now, but I'll follow up on that. Yeah.
Councillor Mooney?
Yeah, thank you. And we've discussed this over the last couple of years, but I think this is one of the budget items that I would actually like to see the whole budget used up. There's people out there, and we know in our economic times how difficult they are, but we have the allocation of $30,000, and the CAO has said the last couple of years have been anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000, I think, Jeff, and I'd like to see that fully utilized by the people that need it the most. And Councillor Langell, you're right. A lot of people don't have access to computers and, you know, go on the town website and find out all the actual programs that benefit people in our community, but mailing it out with a tax bill or with a water bill would be a great idea. Tax bill preferable, maybe just a little appendage would be good. But I think it's a great idea and a great policy change.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Motion to approve the first reading. Moved by Councillor McIsaac, second by Councillor Dawes. You want to second that? Second by Councillor Dawes. Any further discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Business, lighthouse replicas. I just left, I wish I had a colored picture, but I just left this and I sent an email. Did you all receive the email? And I understand, I don't know how, but that there were 10,000 each or something like that, but I guess they're beautiful. Are we interested in having them? And I'll say why, because every time I turn around, someone's saying we need little things to have people's photographs by and things like that. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Councillor Langell?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an incredible project. I've been kind of following it discreetly since it was birthed last fall. Local town resident Bruce Bishop, when he was at the Yarmouth Light as the manager, was approached by this gentleman who at that point was interested in donating them as a possible raffle item. I guess for a variety of reasons, the municipality and the Friends of the Light were not interested in them. He's put tremendous amount of time and energy into the building of these things. They're very attractive, and they would look really stunning in different places of our town. My understanding is they can be permanently affixed, and I understand that they can be put in a fairly good spot. And considering the iconic nature of our light, especially this year with On Doers and Dreamers Guide, I really think it's something that we should accept. So I'm not sure the motion we're looking at here, but I would make a motion that we accept the gift of these two lighthouses from, I'm not sure the gentleman's name offhand.
Okay, do you mind if I just?
You go right ahead.
It's Mr. Kutow, Doug Kutow. Bruce did just mention maybe paying for accommodation.
I was going to put that in the
gas.
motion, yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion that, and further to the motion, that we accept the gift and we pay him any gasoline and accommodations, meals costing, move them from his domicile, which I believe is in Toronto, Pam, I think, or somewhere, to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, and maybe we should host a little get-together to receive them. That would be my motion, Your Worship, yeah.
Okay, so moved. Second by Councillor McIsaac. Oh, Councillor Dodge, you're on.
Oh, no, I'll turn myself off. You jumped ahead of, you took the words out of everyone's mouth. Go for it, you got it, take it away, run with it.
Councillor McIsaac.
Who needs us? We got you. We follow you.
Well done, Madeline. He hasn't learned yet.
Well, I'm a little too old to learn anything, so. Thank you, Your Worship. They look really nice, but I have just probably one major concern, and that's stability is one. Where they're going to be placed is another thing, and I think our engineer should have a look at these because I think there's I think there could be liability here, and I think we ought not forget these right straight up and narrow. It gave the dimensions and everything of these. They look really nice, but there's a maintenance of them, which I don't think is all that much, but I'm really concerned about the stability of them. It's the height of them and the width of them, and can we make them secure? So if we could have our engineer look at this and see what he thinks of these two lighthouses, and perhaps where they would be best suited to be put for best visibility, as somebody said, front of the town hall and down by the Tourist Bureau. Is that what I read in that report?
That's what they had put forward.
Yeah.
But I said, they had said the ferry terminal. I said it's too congested there.
Yeah.
Too congested, so.
Yeah. But anyway, I have no problem with agreeing with the motion and everything, but I have a concern with perhaps the safety of these. And we have an engineer. I don't think we do our due diligence and have him look at these and see if there's any concerns that we should be made aware of. That's just my only one concern.
I want to mention this as well, that when Mr. Bishop came in, he said what they intended to do is what's the plexiglass or whatever that thick so that people can't go and touch them and push them and all that. So that's a little bit of a start on that.
Yeah, okay, but I think our engineer should be, or our public works people should be, have something to do with. Well, I'm sure they will with this. So anyway, just my concern.
Good, Councillor Langeau.
So I'm assuming that I don't believe Councillor McIsaac is against the gift. There's some logistical concerns that's there. I think, and he's quite true, quite valid, because the light visibly, I don't know if it's going to be top heavy or not, but I do know that the plan was, when they were going to be put out at the light originally, that they were going to be relatively secure. And my understanding is that they're actually going to be physically concrete bolted into the ground is what the plan is, because naturally the gentleman doesn't want to see them disappear. And I understand in conversation with Mr. Bishop a few days ago, because I was inquiring of where this was, he had mentioned that he was in conversation with the gentleman, and he actually is building this plexiglass kind of enclosure to keep people from getting close to them, but it wouldn't affect the beauty of the pictures, etc. To me, I think it's a great, with all due respect to our CAO, you do a wonderful job. It's a great improvement to the one we have out front right now. That is getting, that's it. That's again. I know that during the summer is getting a little. It is getting a little tired, and it is a little tired out there. And I think well, that's how tired it is. Most people don't notice it. You kind of visually, it's not very strong. So it'd be nice to see it. Nice to see a replacement. So I hope we'll support the motion.
Councillor Mooney.
And I don't want to complicate something that's so easy, but maybe,
But only we can.
well, we can do it, yeah, I can. Maybe communities in Bloom can look at locations too. I know, you know, Martha, we have wonderful people on the committee. I think Town Hall's a great spot, but let's get them here first and we can figure out what to do with them after. I'm in support of it.
Okay, so the motion is that the town of Yarmouth accept the donation of the 2 Yarmouth light replicas handcrafted by Ontario artisan Doug Couture. And
could we just add the motion that the sector will agree that we refer to communities in Bloom and recommend a council?
I haven't had anything against it, but why? Is that not, is that, sorry.
and to pay the expenses. Go ahead, Councillor Lynn.
Just to answer Councillor Dawes' question, we have a lot of plans underway this year for plantings and that sort of thing in the Yarmouth area, and that's why we're thinking of working with other groups. We've got a large committee that's working with grounds, parks, etc. So we're all kind of on the same page. So the key players are all in that room. So the placement would be logical from that room because we've got staff, we've got garden club, we've got all of it, and then they could come back to us, and this council can put them wherever they want, but it might be nice to keep it in keeping with some of the locations, some of the projects we have going to make sure we make the town as attractive we can this season.
Absolutely, absolutely. I only question, this would, I would have normally expected to receive that input from the Public Works, from the Ground Parks Department.
They're on the committee.
Yeah. So we would get it from them.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so I've got referred to Community in Bloom for placement. We should put in conjunction with him, well, you'll talk to him as well anyway, and to pay the expenses for their arrival. Okay, so there's the motion, and it's been seconded. Is there any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Notice of motion regional government. That's Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the motion's a little different than what's been circulated. I think I might have said it a little too fast over the phone to Linda, but it's not, the intent is the same. My notice of motion for the April meeting is that the town of Yarmouth request a support liaison person from Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Affairs for discussions on regional government with the municipality of Yarmouth and any other municipal unit, i.e. Argyle or Clare.
So there's a different, okay, the difference being the meeting with.
Yes.
Okay. No. Okay, so we're good with that?
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. Notice of motion. Flight School, Councillor Mooney.
Again, Your Worship, I spent a lot of time reading the paper, and we all know what's happening in the Valley area with an expansion probably of Michelin and a closing of a municipally owned airport. I'd like to make a motion that correspondence be sent to Greenwood Flight School regarding any future business and development plans.
I'll second that.
Okay, good, thank you. So we had a brief conversation, Councillor Mooney and myself, and I did make some calls on this already, and I'll let you know as soon as I hear back from that. Somebody had contacts at the flight school, and I'll get that information and then wrap that letter around whatever the response is.
Thank you.
So moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Marijuana?
Marijuana.
Councillor Mooney.
As you're well aware, Your Worship, there's been numerous articles and numerous discussion along all media, social media and TV, Vanguard, Chronicle Herald about medical marijuana and some possibilities of facilities being set up in Nova Scotia. And we discussed this earlier today in a meeting, but I think we should, not only with this situation, but with other companies that come into our radar or their field of vision, that we have to actually get proactive and start meeting and start working with a liaison person to talk to some of these people. So it was, I know in the States it's going to be $1 billion industry, and our rules probably be less restrictive here for growing operations, and I don't mean grow ops, but I mean growing in a controlled environment of medical marijuana. And they're talking about, in the one in Stellarton, about 300 jobs. You know, that's a diversification of our economy, and so I brought this up several times, but and we discussed ideas this afternoon about how to reach out and touch some of these people. So it's just, I just brought it up for a topic of discussion, that or any other idea or any other business opportunity that we have.
Excellent. Bulk water. Keep your light on, Councillor.
Bulk water, I'm going to ask Councillor Langell a question, and this was brought up, I was looking at our provincial minister, and Colchester County has concern over bulk water and how much is taken out of our groundwater these days. And it's in the hundreds of millions of gallons, and they pay a pittance, like $200 for a licensing fee. I'm just going to ask Councillor Langell, we were in on discussions on the UNSM here this last fall with Bob Taylor and Colchester County, and the toll is taken on their agriculture, and what is taken on some of their natural landscape. They have tractor-trailer loads of trucks coming in just getting water like for $200, and you know what the markup on water is. Just ask Councillor Langell if he's ever had any at any of the water conferences or any of the meetings he's ever been to. Has this ever been a discussion?
No, put your light on. I was going to ask you a question before you explain bulk water.
Well, there's different ways you can look at it, and I think I could speak here for about 2 hours
How
on
about
this.
you have 2 minutes?
Yeah, this is a huge topic, and I invite the CAO to chime in. There are two types of bulk water you're referring to. One is the one that we sell. You can right now come to Town Hall, buy one of these little fellas for $1.25, a little coin, take it up to Brooklyn, put it in, and you can fill your truck. I believe it's 400 gallons for $1.25. That's basically what we sell it for. And that's recovers our process, and we have the dollars, et cetera, that goes with it. And we have bulk trucks. We have companies in this area who will go fill up the water. And this is mainly used for wells. Wells in the summer that have gone dry. We have that supply to help people fill their wells, or in some cases they want to recharge the wells or clean the wells. So that's that group. There are also the concern that is being expressed by many municipal units is water is probably the highest profit item going. A little bottle of water costs to actually produce the water is like 1/10 of a cent. So you can just imagine the profit margin in a bottle of water is absolutely huge. And what's really neat is that you look at Big 8, for example, is from the Glasgow water supply. They just use it from the big, that's where it's from. You look at the label. Aquafina is from Burlington, Ontario's water supply. They simply hook up, as Councillor Mooney pointed out, they hook up and go from there. It's even worse now. We're seeing these bottling companies buying water utilities. They actually will come to a town, it's such a huge profit in this stuff, will say to the town, we're going to buy your utility so we can have your water, of course, the bottle, etc. And of course the residents, they promise will always have a water supply. Well, good luck on that one. I think CEO can correct me. I believe Calgary went through that as well. It's a real concern. Luckily in Yarmouth, we're not in that level right now, but it's something the utility is watching extremely carefully. We're very guarding of our water. There's nothing stopping. Luckily Yarmouth is full of lakes, so people can drain the water for using a pumper truck if they want from any lake and lake bed in the community. Lake George, by its mere structure, oddly enough, is a very interesting lake because it's being fed from springs underneath and also from groundwater around it. And it's really, it's kind of interesting how that whole lake evolves. It's a real neat ecosystem, and that's why, Your Worship, we're taking a lot of efforts to protect that. The Watershed Advisory Committee is really tightening up the regulations on that lake to make sure nothing hurts that water supply. But it's a real gem. Lake George is, right now, I'm very proud to say that our water supply in the town town of Yarmouth is the second best in Nova Scotia. Amherst's the only one that's going to beat us, and there's no way we're going to beat Amherst because they've got a filtration system to drive for that they operate on, and it's really good. Now, doesn't mean that we can't change that down the road. ACAO, never say never. But we're the second best, and it's incredible what our product is.
Everybody can sell something that is the best, but when you frame it as the second best, kind of piques interest.
And just to add to that, Your Worship, I think the filtration system in Amherst is a natural filtration system, which is the way it's tiered with, you know, bog, sand, whatever. So the reason that we can never compete with that is because nature's done its course. And I think at one time, I think with Gates and Eisner over the last several years that we've had discussions, I think our water utility is worth anywhere between $56 and $60 million. So that's more than what, you know, the assets are in the town of Yarmouth. So our water utility, I think, is very well set up for the future, and it's big business, man.
Nice. Yep.
And if I can just add, Your Worship, our rates are very reasonable. I mean, if you compare the water rates in town of Yarmouth to other areas, it is, and people may think when they get their water bill, holy mackerel. Well, if you're living in the county, as my son does, and you have to pay for a pump and all the goodies that go with it, and all the rigmarole that goes with that, I mean, just the diaphragm going alone in your pump mechanism is a $700-800 bill right there. Water is a bargain. But, you know, and I'm going to put a plug in because I got the stage for a second. Please conserve your water. I mean, it's amazing. I was reading somewhere that somebody sent that a water leak of 15,000 gallons, whatever, a week or a day. Well, that's a toilet. Really, it's not a lot of water, but it still is a leaky toilet will really add up water loss. And one thing we're really working at now is trying to be proactive to maintain that water loss if we can.
Good, thank you. Yarmouth, a future seniors paradise. Councillor Langeau.
Here we are on my seniors rant. It's amazing, you know, when you hit 61.
I banned rants, by the way.
Mad rant.
I banned them.
You banned rants?
I banned rants.
Had a
from the
rant.
council table.
Martha did a rant at Communities in Bloom meeting there a couple weeks ago. It was really good. You should have been at that one. That was good. Anyway, Your Worship, there's been a lot of discussion on seniors, and the CAO gave a presentation to us regarding the demographics and how the children are fleeing the area, or middle-class, middle-age income groups, or your 22 to 49s are leaving. But we do have a nice steady growth of seniors. And as a result, last week I made the unfortunate mistake of posting a good news story on Facebook, I thought, about the boat that Councillor Dennis, God love her, she shared it, and I thought, well, I'll be a loyal trooper and I'll share it on mine. And anyway, it completely degenerated in 280 comments. That it was a great Sunday afternoon. And somehow the Nova Star story, I love Facebook, evolved into seniors. And don't ask me how that. And there's a gentleman told me if I brought it up tonight, he was going to come and hit me with a pie in the face. So if somebody comes screaming in with a pie, that'll be a good graphic for Eric Burke sitting there with the Vanguard. Anyway, Your Worship, I really think that we should be looking at this. And in the course of that discussion last week, there was a lot of interest being expressed by people from away who are moving back to Yarmouth. It was interesting, the number of people said, hey, I'm moving to Yarmouth. I'm in Toronto, or I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, or I'm in wherever. And we would really like to encourage Yarmouth to encourage people to consider Yarmouth to retire. What a lot of people don't understand is retirement is anyone over 45. Somebody in the armed forces, like Scott Polson, for example, a Yarmouth boy, just retired from the armed forces. He's 45. Well, he's got his pension. He's retired. RCMP, you can retire at 45. I mean, so you're not, as one gentleman put it, foot in the grave at age 70, which is kind of scary. Oh yeah, Jim, it's bad for us. I'll tell you, it's not good if you looked at that Facebook thread. So I'd like to make this motion, Your Worship, that the town of Yarmouth create a seniors advisory committee that would work on ways that we can promote Yarmouth as an active, attractive community for anyone who is considering Yarmouth as a home for their semi-retirement and retirement years. And to speak of the motion of worship, this would be not just a bunch of old people sitting around a table. We're looking at young people on that committee as well, and we'd like to invite people. Some people have already expressed interest, and it's an advisory committee that can work with what we identified as a council as one of our goals. you know, as part of our expansion to our tax base to encourage this sort of thing. And I think it's a very proactive thing to do. So I'm hoping that council will support. There's no dollars assigned to it yet. It's just a group that's going to get together. But I think it's good to get that little recognition. And then when we do down the road get more into development and more into promotion, we'll have that body in place to work with any individuals.
And hopefully that body can do a little bit of education. Because if I'm frank about the whole seniors thing, it's just lack of knowledge about, there's a difference between nursing homes and a retirement community. The retired people are the ones that have money and want to spend it. And guess what? We have a place to spend it.
I just want to say one quick thing. I was talking with a gentleman on Monday who is about to retire. He will have a pension of $51,000 a year until he dies. To me, that's a job. He's thinking of staying in the Yarmouth area with his wife. That is a $51,000 a year job. He is going to spend that money in this community. So I think that's wonderful. If we can get 10 or 15 or 20 of these $51,000 a year jobs, that's great. 3 weeks ago, I went to Knights of Columbus with the Retired Teachers Association. We have a little get-together luncheon at the Knights of Columbus. There were 72 teachers there, and every one of them are doing pretty good in pensions. Those are jobs. I'm looking, these are 72 jobs. It's an industry, you know, and they spend money, they get their hair done, they go see their doctors, they buy pills at PharmaSave. In fact, they buy a lot of pills there. So it's good business for everybody. So I think it's a good news thing. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. It's been a while. I forgot what I was going to say.
Penny's talking, write it down.
So,
Did
you remember?
I support. Yes.
Okay.
I support this. I was an advocate of this right from the very beginning, even before I came on council, and when I first joined on council. And yes, by no means are we seniors that old. Most of us. If you're setting up a committee, I'm your first name on it.
Okay, so you moved it. I think Councillor McIsaac seconded it. Is there any more discussion? Okay, so what's the motions? The motion? Is that okay? And that would have to go back. Yeah, okay, good. All right. So all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Saltscapes is done. Solid Waste C&D Conference, Councillor Langell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Yarmouth send Councillor Phil Mooney to the Construction and Demolition Debris Conference in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia on Monday, March 24th, 2014. And if that's seconded, I'll speak on it.
You might want to ask Councillor Mooney if he wants to go, or is...
Do you want to go? Yeah. The reason I'm bringing it forth, Your Worship, is Councillor Mooney and I are both Yarmouth representatives on solid waste. There is a concern that we've got to realize as one of the partners in the solid waste park that we do have a number of structures in Yarmouth that are going to be coming down in the next few years. These construction cells are extremely expensive, as the CAO will tell you, and we have to be extremely, extremely vigilant and careful on how we do it. Our current manager at the waste park is doing a commendable job in extending the life of those cells as much as we can. So I think by Councillor Mooney attending this, I think he'll come back with some really good information, really good ideas. I believe our park manager is going to that as well. And I think it's important as one of the key players in the park that we have representation there. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Mooney?
And just to add to that, Your Worship, one of those cells, I think CAOs to construct up to $500,000. So, like Councillor Langell said, with some dilapidated buildings coming down and some other issues in the town of Yarmouth, those cells fill up pretty quick, and there might be some ideas or something that we can bring back to the community that could actually make those cells last longer and add a $500,000 investment. And you know how government regulations are. They might put more regulations in place to do other things to the cell that might make them more expensive than that. So I'd be honored to go.
Good. Any more discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Music in downtown. Councillor Landro.
Well, it's kind of music. We kind of skipped over the International Gathering of the Clans, Your Worship. Could we get that one out of the way?
Did I miss that?
HG, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
HA.
went right under, sorry.
HG,
Yeah,
it's a very quickie. Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that the town of Yarmouth support the efforts of the local organizing committee that are working to get the closing ceremonies of the 2015 International Gathering of the Clans here in Yarmouth from July 20th to July 25th, 2015. And just to speak on this, Your Worship, Ray Corbett and a group in the area have been working. I'm really pleased to let Council know that in 2015, the International Gathering of the Clans is coming to Nova Scotia. And unlike previous years where they tended to do it all in one spot, they've elected this time to break it in 4. And I'm really pleased to let Council know that one of the closing ceremonies will be here in Yarmouth. That is what the organizing committee is working on. And Councillor Mooney and myself have stuck our necks out, and we're on the committee with Reverend Corbett. And
Sorry about that.
yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's working really quite well. It's really going to be quite exciting to have these delegates in this area. So the motion, I'll be very careful, is to support. We're not asking for money at this point. And at this point, Reverend Corbett isn't looking for money. You know, maybe we may be hosting an event or something like that, but that'll be the next fiscal year anyway. So I just wanted to let them know that we're fully in support because they need that letter of support for the International Gathering of the Clans to put this in their schedule to plan it for 2015. Yes, well, we'll be getting a letter from the mayor on that as well.
Yeah.
That'll be part of the letter of support. Yeah. And I'll provide the information for her.
Okay. Yeah, because they contacted me, and when they said Scottish and history, and I said, Councillor Landro, so I appreciate you stepping up on that one. Okay, so we have a motion to support in principle the International Gathering of the Clans. Okay? No, I was just reading the motion. Okay, any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Music in downtown.
Okay, here we go. I see Jim smiling over there. Nothing good's going to come out of this one, as Phil would say. I've had some people express concerns to me about the music in the downtown, and I think some of you have already. And I have 2 motions I'd like to bring to council, and just for discussion purposes to see what you think, okay? The first motion is that I'm moving that the music currently being played in the downtown of Yarmouth be limited to the time period between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. each day until such time that a policy regarding the playing of music in the downtown be developed. That's my first motion. If it's seconded, I'll speak on that. And yeah, and the reason is, Your Worship, I'm getting some complaints, I don't know, maybe others have, for residential people. They're finding it's a little long at times, and I'm not sure on the time frame. I'll be honest, I'm not in my walking downtown mode. Maybe Deputy Mayor, who was the Grand Poop. It's 9 to 9? Good. So that's fine. So if it's 9 to 9, if it's going to be in that realm, then the idea is to move it up to 10 in the morning. I think that was what the discussion was for people who are working shifts. The 2 people that contacted me are shift workers, and they wouldn't mind that extra hour in the morning if at all possible. So that was why the time was there.
Okay, so that was moved and it was seconded. Is there, and you, sorry, Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
I've had a couple comments on the downtown music too. It's like liver. They either love it or they hate it. And I had the same concern, somebody that lives in one of the downtown apartments, one of the really nice downtown apartments, and they're a shift worker. And they had concerns about some of the stuff early in the morning and a little later at night with sleep patterns. But I know we're not going to please everybody with it. I liked it at Christmas time. I like to see it at special occasions. Maybe in the summertime, you know, you do Acadian music, you do Nova Scotia, you do Anne Murray, you do Tim Dion and Mr. Murphy. You do those guys. You highlight your local talent. But this is one that everybody has an opinion on, and not anybody asks, they don't say, well, I really don't know. They'll say they either love it or hate it. And I don't mind it, really. And you know, I support Councillor Landro's motion. If we want to get people in the downtown and people living in our second stories, and this is a concern. This is going to be a concern too for the value of some of the properties and getting people in there. You know, so it's a tough issue, but.
Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. This originally just started off with Christmas music, and it just went on and on and on. The music was playing on, and it was only supposed to be just at Christmas time, which was great, which was really good. Now you have different varieties of music, 3 or 4 people that are volunteering, putting this music and that together. It's not so much playing the music, it's the 365 days a year of the music that people that I've talked to, people talk to me. I don't usually go up and downtown all that much, and if I do, it's Water Street as much as I can because I like the scenery, and it is Main Street, and I usually have my own music in my ears anyway, and whatever they're playing, I don't hear it. But there are a few people that just don't like it every day. And our intent was just at Christmas time and some special events and stuff. Somebody in their wisdom said, well, this is a great thing. We got the speakers and that, let's use them. And so they're using them. And you've got people that do like them and some people that don't like them. Just as you said, Councillor Mooney, if you like liver, you like it. I like liver. But we have to respect the people that don't like it as much as people that do like it. I don't know where that happy medium is going to be. I don't know if it's 9 hours, 12 hours a day playing it from when these people are up and out about. Does it stop people from coming into downtown? Maybe it does. Maybe they just go out in the box stores, wherever, out on Stars Road and stuff. I mean, people are frickled sometimes. They're funny. You know, us Nova Scotians, if we get our backside up, then, you know, if we were going to protest and you know, not participate in different things because of certain things that bother us, you ain't going to go downtown. If you don't like the music, you ain't going to go. And there are some people that just don't want to go downtown because of the music. And that's plain and simple. And I'm not against the music. I'm just saying what people are telling me. And there's not people banging on my doors, my phone's not ringing off the hook. But when I have these conversations with people, they love the music at Christmas time. It was great, beautiful, loved it. But I think you can really overkill things, and this is an overkill, I do believe. This was supposed to come back to the town of Yarmouth from the waterfront development. We put it back. It's supposed to come back. I didn't see it nowhere's on the agenda here. And I'm kind of, I don't know what happened to the minutes of the waterfront development meeting, but I think there was a motion made, if I'm not mistaken, Jim, that was coming back to the town for discussion. I'm glad Councillor Lanza brought it up. But I'll look forward to seeing that perhaps at a future meeting for recommendations from the waterfront development to bring it back and place it in the council's hands where it should be and where it originated from. So I'll just say what I had to say, and that's about it. I mean, I'm just flogging a dead horse here. If it's going to continue, then my sympathy goes out to the people that don't like it, and I'm happy that the people that do like it.
I'm so proud of you for not calling that a rant. That's very good. I'm just tormenting him.
Your Worship.
I appreciate that. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, just repeat Ken's motion so I understand.
I believe Ken's motion was basically now, it's to turn it from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10.
No, but that was after we developed it. There was a policy inference in that, Ken.
Do it now, from 10 a.m. to 9 until September, policy regarding playing of music in the downtown traffic.
So I'll arrange that.
So go from 10 until 9, until such time we get the policy in place.
Well, when was the policy in place?
So Your Worship, I can organize that if you wish. I'll speak with the right person, and we'll organize it from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week.
Until the next call.
No.
Yes, now I feel like we're doing the NPS thing.
Period.
Like, let's change it by an hour every time we get a couple calls.
Period.
Let's
No.
fix it.
But we've all spoken about or heard comments about music, and for every negative comment, there probably are, I don't know, I don't keep track of them, but must be 7 or 8 positive comments. And so I feel, and there's always going to be comments about the music, the choice of music, and the music is varied on a regular basis by the 2 people that are involved in the organization of that or the setting it up, and they're very sincere in what they're attempting to do on behalf of our council. So I'll organize the beginning. We'll start it at 10 and go it and limit it to 9 p.m. and then await further discussion at the council level. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I got a couple more here. Councillor Langill?
Yes, thank you. And again, I apologize if I kind of jumped the gun here. I tend to read things, and I did read the Waterfront Development Corporation minutes, and in it there was a motion. That's why I twigged it on the agenda, that it was voted to come back to the town. So I just was assuming that where it's now kind of in our hands, that we're now the proud owners of this music system, and thanks to Deputy Mayor McLeod and the Waterfront Development Corporation and others who made it happen. So that's why the motion is there, saying, okay, let's now start to put the ducks in a row of how this thing is going to run, so that it's in place. So that was the intent. So I'd call the question. Oh, sorry, Councillor McKay.
Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Given it some thought, you know, in all fairness, as I said before, this was supposed to be for Christmas and Christmas time only. And the motion to bring it back to council was to have a policy made for this, like we discussed earlier this morning about policies. Now, I know it's only music playing, but it's a lot of music playing, 365 days a year. That wasn't the intent. I think for us just to say we're going to make it from 10 to 9, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, it's kind of unfair for the people not to have a say if that's what they wish. I know we're elected to make decisions around this table, and I understand that, and I don't have any problem with that. But we're very quick when it comes to asking people in the commercial part for input on what they think and how they think this should go and that should go, and we're always asking for input. I think we might be selling our residents a little short if we don't communicate with them and to see how much they really do like this music, to see if there's 7 to 1 or 8 to 1 in favor of this. I'd be surprised if there was. Then again, I might totally be really surprised that there's probably more. Who knows? But I think there's got to be some way that we could send out a letter, a newsletter, or something before we start making all these motions and putting it into part of our law, bylaws, or whatever, that we do this. So I think that we ought to really give this a little bit more thought, really, before if we go through this, can we come back on this and redo it again? It's just a thought. You think maybe we should put something out there for the residents to maybe respond to, whether they're in favor of music, 7 days a week, 12, 13 hours a day, 365 days a year? Do we owe it to them or not?
Councillor Langill?
Just to, and I'll make this very quick. Right now we have music playing that some people like, some people don't like. We have some concern about the time frame in the morning. Nobody's mentioned Sunday morning to me, which I'm kind of surprised. I didn't hear anything on that. And the intent of this motion only is to change the time. There is a provision regarding a policy, but there's no motion for a policy, if you know what I mean. It's just simply to change the time. I have a second motion coming after this one, but this one just basically just asks to change the time from 10 to 9, which Deputy Mayor said is possible to be done.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Okay, now the good news one. I'd like to make a motion that Yarmouth Town Council work with local musicians and interested citizens to ensure that a process and subsequent priority be given to those music genres that promote our local and Nova Scotia music industry during the summer months. I sent all councillors an email. You have it in your email, Councillor Dawes. I sent it's in.
When did you send it, please?
Oh, I'd say it's 7:30.
This evening?
Yeah.
Oh. I haven't,
While we were sitting in council?
No, before we went to council, just before O Canada. When I commented to Linda, I said I just sent it. In the break between. What?
Okay, how long of a recess do I have to request here to read this and find it?
Well, you can always move to table it. I mean, the motion basically is to try. I've had a lot of people say, why can we not play local music? I think the comment was made earlier by Councillor Mooney, gotta get over that, that we should be doing more local Nova Scotian product in there. And I do know that people like Phil DeMille would be more than willing to sit down and work out ways that we can promote, especially during our summer visitors coming here to Nova Scotia, coming into Yarmouth this summer. It would be really neat to be playing our local musicians. We've got close to 100 groups coming here during the Coal Shed Festival. A wonderful project that we could look at. So the motion is simply to get a group together to maybe come up with a way, sit down with Deputy Mayor McLeod and his two people who are working on music and say, how can we blend this so that during the summer months we would be playing local music, or we'd be playing Nova Scotia music, which is unique than what they'll be hearing on the boat. That was my thought.
okay. I just have to make this one comment, that I guess I love some of it. Never mind. Some of it can get really, really loud on really loud. It just, we would have to be careful in that.
I think we should cut our CD of
Deputy Mayor?
Ken, already we've chatted about that, a couple of us, and we haven't come to any resolution. But we have chatted about that, and so I'll take that back to Jamie also.
CAO?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to offer a couple of comments on this. On January 15th, I took the risky step of posting a question on Facebook about the music downtown, because at a waterfront meeting that night, we had some discussion. Some people hated it, some people loved it. So I thought, why not ask? Because there's a lot of people who follow the Town of Yarmouth Facebook page, almost 2,000. So after posting that, within 3 days, I had 91 comments on the post, and I invite you all to go on the Town of Yarmouth Facebook page and read those 91 comments. There are 45 likes. There is no dislike button on Facebook, so we can't do a comparison to that. But if you read the comments, the people who bothered to comment, they're overwhelmingly positive, which surprised the heck out of me, because I thought I might have to remove the post after I put it on there, because the way negativity seems to breed negativity on Facebook, unfortunately. So that was January 15th, if you'd have the time to look at the Town of Yarmouth's Facebook page. The other thing that I think just occurs to me when we talk about this is that the speakers themselves are mounted on private buildings. They're not mounted on our lamp posts. And so we haven't imposed this unwillingly on any property owners. And those property owners, obviously either own the businesses or rent to the businesses that occupy those buildings, or to the tenants who might be renting. And so if maybe it's worthwhile when we're talking to people about the music to talk to the property owners to find out how do they feel about it now that in some cases they've assisted with the investment, but they allowed us at least to install in their buildings. How do they feel? Are they getting complaints from their tenants? Are they thinking they'd like us to shut it off during some months or seasons or whatnot, just to get some additional feedback? So it occurred to me that we weren't really imposing this unwillingly on the downtown, and I think it is worth checking in, because maybe they didn't expect it on in January, February, and March, and now it is. And so let's, yeah, consult.
Did you want one more comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Two things. CEO's comments are really well. I saw that spread, and it was quite interesting. And the comments of local music is coming from the merchants to me. That's where I'm getting it from. The merchants in the community there that I've spoken to. I haven't heard anything negative from the merchant community downtown with regard to the music. On the contrary, it was a little loud for a while. It's been turned down, so it's a little softer now, which is better. It was a little bit loud. However, back to Deputy Mayor McLeod's comment, I do have a concern, because the answer was, I'm going to take it back to two people that do it and we'll discuss it. So I'm assuming that we don't know if they're going to. I really would like to open the door for local musicians to talk to these mystery people who are selecting the music, because nobody knows who they are, who work, and that, God love them, they're doing a wonderful job. But you get people like Phil DeMille and groups, and these aren't loud. I'm talking about your folk artists, your good singers, your older groups that perform. You know, they cut their own albums. There's no problem with copyright. They own the copyright. I would hate to see a couple of people decide, oh, I'm not going to have that band, they're garbage, but I like this band, they're good. I really think everybody should be on an equal playing field in the community, and everybody should have an opportunity. It's like art. It's like Councillor McIsaac's liver. Some people like it, some people don't. And art's the same way. I mean, there's certain music genres I love and others I absolutely hate. But on the other hand, there's different talents that we have. So that's why that was my comment, to try to get that forum engagement going. And it may just be one meeting. Say, okay, what can we do downtown to, especially during the summer months? And the second part is, it'd be nice that there would be some retailers selling some of that music, because that's the other issue. You have this great Yarmouth music. We've got some incredible musicians in this community who are trying to hawk their wares, and there's a chance that they could possibly sell it as well. So it would be good for a business in the same token. So that was the reason for the motion, is to at least get the dialogue going. It's not committing anyone, it's just to open the door and get some dialogue.
I just got one more suggestion, Your Worship. There's going to be people after us, I'm sure, that are going to be elected officials. We went through this exercise this morning. I strongly believe that we should have a policy put in place. This I can see where at our board meeting with the waterfront development, it was suggested by a couple of volunteers that this could get out of hand. And you know what? It's out of hand now. I made the motion to bring it back to council, put it in council's hands. Now, listen to the deputy mayor says, well, I'll get my 2 volunteers to do this. That's not the reason why I asked it to go back to be put in council's hands. It's got to have council's input. It's great to have the volunteers. We can run it by them. But it's got to be council's decision, not the 2 volunteers' decision, and not just Deputy McLeod, in all fairness. And if we want to avoid all this, and me saying this, then we have and put a policy in place. Then we follow the policy, and we don't have no ickering or bickering or nothing. It's there. Follow the policy. The only way you veer from that is you change the policy, and then you have another debate. So if this, has your motion been passed and dealt with, then I will make a motion. I'd like to make a motion after Councillor Lanza makes his motion. Yours on the floor now?
So the motion on the floor is to go from the 10 to, no, that's the second.
That's done.
The second motion is to
Local artists.
get the local artists. The motion in so many words, that town council work with local musicians and interested citizens to ensure that a process and subsequent priority, in other words, we're going to prioritize, be given to those music genres that promote our local and Nova Scotia music industry during the summer months. So all we're asking is a process and to give them a little priority. That's the motion. She seconded it, so it's on.
Question.
Ken,
I moved it, Sandy seconded.
you good, CAO?
You got a problem with that? Speak up or hold your peace.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Councillor McIsaac that what's needed is a policy, and that can be part of should be part of the policy. You know,
That's right.
you have some volunteers, a couple volunteers right now, and perhaps there are other people who have been named in this discussion who could be part of that group that town council works with, but to develop the parameters for the policy to guide, I guess, the playing of the music. Rather than just setting up a committee that will ad hoc kind of do things, and we'll find about it as we hear it and as we get complaints. There'll always be complaints. To have the committee focus on creating the policy that will govern what music is played and so on.
It's one of those things of what comes first, chicken or the egg on this one. This is a prime example of it. The intent of the motion was to just get the dialogue going, and from that would come a policy. However, the other option is do a policy and then have a dialogue. And I'm thinking if the intent of this whole motion was just to get the dialogue, and then people say, okay, I see where we're going to go with this. We see what the interests are. We see we need this Acadian theme here. We need this here. We need that there. And then from this, what I'm visualizing, Your Worship, is a quick meeting, maybe an evening held with Deputy Mayor and Council, whoever want to go, and invite the local musicians in. Phil DeMille, I spoke with earlier, he said he'd be delighted to work on this. Sit down and say, what do we need? And then come back, and then Council can go to we can go the next step. And that's why I put those little words process in there, and that's why I snuck that word in there, to work on the process. And that process would logically evolve into a policy that staff would bring back to us for consideration.
Okay, because what I was envisioning was a cross between country and Acadian and heavy metal and everything else that's seriously on Main Street, and it just wouldn't do.
But you're finished?
I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay.
But before we go with this motion, if this motion passes, which I will vote in favor of it, but if it passes, then we have a motion that's already made. Do we follow that motion? Because the motion I'm going to make right after this is passed, I'm going to make a motion that we direct staff to get a policy together for downtown music, however you want to word it, but that would be my motion. Or have you got a good wording for that? His motion? Because, because like we discussed this morning, we had a motion that was 6-7 years old with no policy around it. So if we're putting the motion forward before we put the policy, ask for the policy, is that the proper procedure?
CAO?
Councillor Langel's, well, I guess clarification, primarily for my purposes, because I misunderstood, but if the intention is for this group to talk, discuss, come back with a policy that you guys would endorse, and then on.
But that wasn't part of his motion.
No, but that maybe if we added something to the motion to be clear, and maybe you can even put a timeline, like 4 months, 6 months, to bring a draft policy back to council.
Yeah. And that would give you time to start to develop this policy?
It won't be me. The motion
No,
is the town council work with, and so what I heard was sort of a meeting with some invitees and councillors at the table and talk about.
But who does the policy part?
Well, the group can write up their bullets, and we can put it in the form of a policy. That's no problem.
Okay. So if the councillor wants to put that in his motion, and the seconder wants to second it, I'm just worried about, we have no policy on this, and everybody like myself and everybody that's concerned brings us back up, and we can avoid all this.
Well, he's indicated a timeline, and I'll stop talking, but he's indicated a
Okay.
timeline, which I think gives us the ability to respond to.
And we'll have a chance to prove that prove the policy. Okay, great, thank you. And thank you, Councillor.
And CAO, just make sure I'm doing this right. I think I got it right. The new motion would read that, it's a little change, that the town council work with local musicians and interested citizens to develop a policy that could give priority to those music genres that promote the local and Nova Scotia music industry during summer months.
Councillor McIsaac?
And thank you, Your Worship. And just one more added thing to that to give some consideration. And the time lengths of playing, the policy would have when we play the music, how long we play the music. Is it 365 days a year or whatever, this and that? This is the policy that has to be worked on. That's what I hope. Okay, great.
Excuse me. Okay, any further discussion on this? Que- Are we finished? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. If anyone's got $1 million deal they want to put on the table, we could probably go through that now in 30 seconds flat. Oh, Councillor Lanjo, you're up.
Yeah, still here. Dog park. Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that Council request the Recreation Committee to explore the creation of a designated dog park in the town of Yarmouth.
Second.
I have a question. You have to put on light. Councillor McIsaac? Oh, sorry. Did you want to speak to that first?
The
Go,
motion,
let him
yeah.
speak, yeah.
Yeah, the intention here is, Your Worship, there has been some concern. We had a presentation earlier this evening. One of the favored locations for people to walk their dogs, maybe in the throes of development, hopefully. We had a citizen this evening speak to us about the concern for a dog park. Dog parks, I believe, fit within the recreation realm because it's all part of that active living, et cetera, et cetera. And there is no better department, in my opinion, or committee to look at this than recreation because they know what they have. They know what their infrastructure is. They know what their facilities are. They know what's needed. And I think that would be the avenue to follow, and that's why I'm making this motion. But again, I'm more than willing to change it in any way. I'd just like to see us get moving to find a designated area that people can safely walk their dogs.
Thank you. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. My question will be to the CAO. Jeff, being an ex-recreation director, what's your thoughts on putting this on Mr. Grant? Is that the appropriate place, or should it be our Public Works Department? Or should it be, I don't know, should it be, who should it be? Who do you think fits his bill? I'm in agreement with him for a dog park. I know we have lots of surplus land, but it has to be where, you know, it doesn't cause waves for other people that live around the neighborhood and stuff. So it's got to be a tasteful place for the people bringing their dogs. It's got to be secure, and you know, you wouldn't want it in a heavy residential place, I don't think. I'm not sure. I haven't got a dog. I got cats, but no dog. So I'll listen to your thoughts.
You good? Go ahead. And then,
So if I understand correctly, we're talking about, sorry, I'm on, yeah. We're talking about an outdoor off-leash dog facility. Is that what we're talking about? Yes. Okay, then I would suggest we call it that. And then I would suggest for sure to refer to the Recreation Committee.
I agree to
Right, okay.
change.
Okay.
yeah. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, thank you. You've answered one of my questions. A dog, excuse me, a dog park. They are everywhere. They're useful. They also have 8 to sometimes 10-foot high chain link fences all around them. They also have little park benches, and they have a little grass area, shaded area for trees, and gravel gravel areas for the dogs to play. Seating for the owners, you are not going to take this the wrong way. I know you're not. But this leads me to the question, why would this not go under Communities in Bloom then? It's a green space, you want to make it pretty? Or you want to adopt it?
I'll respond to that. To me, the area that we're going to be looking at, I would expect, would be probably existing recreational properties. We're in the process right now of some school integration happening. We do have, for example, Yarmouth High School. That field is empty in behind. You have a possible merger of elementary schools happening. All those parks, all those grounds are being maintained by recreation. They know what their inventory is. So therefore, the thought would be is let them say, okay, this is what, they know what's height of fence they need, what length is needed, what's involved with the whole 9 yards, and then let them come back with a recommendation. And then to make it look pretty, Communities in Bloom will look at it that way. We'll pretty it up a little bit. Yeah, well,
Just asking.
yeah.
Just asking, I'm just checking your timing, that's all.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is to the CAO. CAO, the fencing along Kemp Street that the developers were here this evening, does that belong and still belong to the town of Yarmouth? And if it does, when are we going to, we are going to move it, I would think, I would hope. And if we do, could we use that for potential fencing for dog park, cat park, whatever park? So my question is to you.
CAO? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that property is managed by the Recreation Department, so I don't know what their plans are with regard to the physical assets that are there. My understanding, I checked with the solicitor's memory, but I believe we have the right to remove improvements that we had made on that property under our lease that we had with the Roman Catholic Diocese.
Yes, that's right.
Can we,
I was nodding.
can we then, the CAO, can we then look at taking this fence down? See how big of a job in that it is? I mean, they are expensive. They're the chain link fencing, and that is a commercial galvanized. There's different gauges. This is a heavy gauge, so I think it might be worthwhile to take the fencing itself down. It does come. You can roll that stuff up, and you know the piping. I don't know what good that would be. You'd have to extend it, weld it on, but I don't think that'd be any good. But the fencing itself would be valuable, other than the other stuff. So I would suggest that we look at that if we could.
Okay. You need to read the motion again, please. If you don't mind, or Linda may have it right there.
I am moving that the town of Yarmouth request the Recreation Committee to explore the creation of an off-leashed dog park within the town of Yarmouth. Facility.
Good, okay. Question's been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Just so anyone listening understands, we did spend close to 4 hours this morning, so I think a couple of us got the giggles, but it's all good, as long as we're happy. And we have lighting in skate park. That's you, Councillor McCarthy.
Again, oh, isn't that nice? Yes. My question will be to the CAO. I meant to ask you this the other day, but I neglected it. Anyway, lighting in the skateboard park. I've had some concerns for some people that live in that part of where the skateboard park and that is. It's well lit, and it's lit all night long. All night. Do we have the skateboard park lighting on a timer? And if we don't, could it be put on a timer for, let's just say, whenever it gets dark? We're in the summer months now, so it would be getting dark, probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that, till 10 or 11. You know, I mean, these are whatever we decide, I guess, here as a council, but there should be a time limit, and they shouldn't be just burning all night long, wasting all that energy. I don't think there's any need of it, and all that cost. So, and it does upset a few of the people that live in that neighborhood. It's just like daylight, 24 hours a day. So Is there timers on there? Because every time I went by there, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, or even earlier in the morning, 5 or 6, the lights are on.
CAO?
Yeah, I had passed on some direction around this to Public Works several weeks ago because I had a complaint about it. And I believe, I'd have to check, but I believe there's a bylaw in the town that the parks are basically closed at 11 p.m.
That's good.
And so the question in my mind was, do you turn all the lights off, or do you turn them all off except for one, so that at least there's still some visibility in the park?
I can understand that.
That's what I asked
Yeah,
to be done.
I can understand
And
that.
I did receive a response, and it doesn't come to top of mind at this point, but they understood the direction that I was looking for, and so I'll follow up on that and see if we can do that.
Could you put that on your radar and get back to council on that?
I will, yes.
Thank you very much, CEO. Thank you, Your Worship.
You're most welcome. Reports. Council Advisory Committees, Committee of the Whole, February 20th. Deputy Mayor, you're on. February 20th, 2014.
I move that staff be directed to investigate alternatives to the brown soil properties in our town of Yarmouth.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that correspondence be sent to the Minister of Housing inquiring about the possibility of programs that municipalities can participate in to convert vacant serviced lots into owner-occupied housing.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that paving of the YMCA parking lot be moved to 2015-2016 capital budget, and the $100,000 be used for decorative lighting on Main Street from Forest to Argyle Streets.
I'm trying to, go ahead.
And decorative lighting might not be the, it's what's said in the motion, but what we're doing is just doing a continuation of the lamp post lighting from 4th Street to the Argyle Street. So decorative might not be the right word. Maybe it's a word that has to be used in the motion, but it's the lamp post lighting, so it'll be consistent throughout the consistent lamp post lighting. So decorative might not be the right word, but it's lamp post lighting that we put in this year's budget that Councillor McIsaac said for the last number of years has been long overdue, and I think it's a great motion, and I think it's going to connect the Main Street to the other end of Main Street. So it's a great motion.
We can leave it as it is because we know what
Yeah, we know what it is, but I think just for the public knowledge that it is the lamp posts that we're going to be doing.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Motion, contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the
Deputy?
purchase of the portable screener be moved to the 2015-16 budget, and that the 35 be used for decorative lighting in the 2014-15 year.
The purchase of portable screening. Yeah, moved and seconded. So what's the 35? I must have missed this one. No, I didn't. Go ahead, CAO.
Your Worship, those motions specifically related to budget allocations within the capital budget, those adjustments were already made, and so what you're really looking for tonight is to approve the capital budget as agreed on by council.
Okay, so that's really number 5. Okay, so we'll go through this anyway. So any discussion on this one?
Question.
Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the 2014-15 capital budget be approved with the amendments.
You got that, Linda? Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a question, Your Worship, and probably to the CAO. Well, we have this capital budget on the website so our citizens can see where we've allocated capital budget items. Okay, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Councillor. Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy Mayor?
I move that correspondence be sent to the Minister of Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations explaining the concern over our inability to dispose of surplus properties below market value and inquiring if there are any imminent plans to amend the MGA to address the issue.
Yep, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's two. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Motions from, I have Committee of the Whole, February 27, 2014. Deputy Mayor.
I move that grants to organizations be approved, rounded to the next $10.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried.
I move that correspondence be sent to the Genealogical Association, thanking them for the offer to the Town of Yarmouth to sponsor their conference, but advising the Town of Yarmouth is not interested at this time.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that Craig Smith be advised that the ferry terminal will be leased to Nova Star Cruises, but the request will be forwarded to the Nova Star Cruises as well as to the Industrial Commission.
Moved and has been good. Moved and seconded. Let's get this one done. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. Technical question. You can all, I know you all have the answer for me. I was absent during this Committee of the Whole meeting.
Excuse me.
Since I did not take part in any of these, can I vote?
CAO?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, you can. The Committee of the Whole is like any other advisory committee.
It's just a council that I...
Yes, the only time when it matters, I think what you're driving at, is like earlier this evening we had a public hearing.
Yes.
On a planning matter. If you are not present during the public hearing, you then cannot vote on the amendment when it comes to council. But in terms of advisory committees like Committee of the Whole,
Yes.
you can be absent from the Committee of the Whole meeting, but then you're fully entitled and in fact obligated to vote on the motions when they come forward to council.
Very well. Thank you very much. Now I have one quick question to pardon me, to my colleagues around the table. I am going to have a couple of questions on these because I was not present. So if you would muster up just half a minute of patience when I have a question once in a while, please, and thank you.
Good. Deputy Mayor?
I move that the annual CAO review, Chief Administrative Officer review, be completed before April 30th, 2014.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that staff be directed to review the Town of Yarmouth's fuel and oil tenders.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that staff be directed to develop a policy in consultation with the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia to use the council chambers to display works of art by local artists.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Langell?
Just a quick comment, I guess, to the CAO. We did approve in the capital budget, we are doing some renovations within the building, and the intention is that would work in conjunction with those, because naturally there'd be some factors that would be a great time to incorporate it at that point. So just to pass that on.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that correspondence be sent to the ATV Association advising we are unable to support or comment on the legislation.
Moved and seconded, and that's because we don't know what the legislation looks like. It's not because we. Councillor Dawes, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. All right. I think you're answering my question because I don't understand. Does that mean that this council is not supporting the ATV Association's request, period?
Doesn't mean that when I see this, it simply means that because we don't know what the legislation looks like yet, that we can't comment on that legislation.
All right.
We're just not commenting on that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But I am aware that they have come to council with their request. Can they use part of Water Street? Can they use Water Street with access to town?
That was a whole different discussion we had.
Yeah.
He wasn't here.
Okay.
You got to open the links. You'll have to be, we had the minutes for that.
Yeah. So I think, I want to make this clear to you. They came, they sent a letter, another letter, basically asking if we could support the legislation. And the answer was no, because the legislation hasn't been written and we can't comment on what. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thanks very much.
Makes it pretty clear.
Yes,
So we're
yes.
not saying no.
I
I'm
just
certainly
wasn't
not saying
sure
no.
if they have been shut out completely, if council has said, no, absolutely not, you are not entering town whatsoever. I wasn't sure on that. No? Yeah? No?
Well, that's a question I'm going to ask the solicitor or the CAO. I don't think we have any control over it right now until legislation for the Off-Highway Vehicle Act is changed. Am I right, Greg? I had this conversation with the gentleman the other night in the grocery store, and he said all the town of Yarmouth has to do is change a bylaw. We can let ATVs go down Water Street. And I said, that's not right. And he said, well, they do it in other municipal jurisdictions. They let the RCMP lead them. I said, that's probably a different scenario or a different situation. But we cannot let all-terrain vehicles go down Main Street unless the government, Jeff McClellan, the Minister of Transportation, changes the Off-Highway Vehicle Act to meet those specifications, or to let municipal units decide if they want to do it. Am I correct with in the conversation I had with the gentleman?
Yes, that's right. They only, they're only permitted on the shoulders of the roads right now, and the Water Street isn't wide enough for there to be a shoulder of the road, so yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right.
Good answer, solicitor.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. But this has not, the door has not been shut on this. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Very well. Because there is something, there is a request, actually a suggestion from the ATV Association that actually made sense to me, and I don't know if it has been brought to council during my absence. I don't know. That was if the town would consider allowing the ATVs access going one way out of town along Water Street during a specified period of time, and then again only on Water Street. This is to connect trail to trail back out of town between a specified couple of hours.
I just want him to, we're not allowed.
No.
It's not a matter of whether we say okay, we are simply not allowed.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the legislation doesn't permit it. That's, if the legislation is changed to give the town some discretion, then it may in the future be permissible.
All right. And that's any street in town, whether it's Main Street, Water Street, doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, good questions.
Plus on that discussion is I don't think the ATV or all-terrain vehicle group was that specific on timelines with the letter they sent us. And I think this discussion has already been sent through to the Minister of Transportation through the Union of Nova Scotia Municipalities, and you were there, Councillor Dawes, which caused quite a discussion. So I don't think there's an appetite at the provincial level to change the legislation right now. There's a couple, 2 or 3, regional municipality in Cape Breton's is not supportive of it. I know the region of Queens is not supportive of it, and I think one of the biggest vocal opponents of it was the municipality of Halifax. We're not supportive of it. So that's something that's in Jeff McClellan's hands right now, and we cannot do anything until the minister changes his mind. And then after that, that's a discussion we have to have at the table again, if we're still here.
Good, thank you. So the motion is on the floor. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy Mayor?
I move that staff be directed to contact the traffic authority to investigate the possibility of making a considerable part of Water Street no parking on one side.
Moved and seconded. It was about the fact that it's so narrow and the traffic is so crazy that could we just one side not have traffic? Not have parking. All those, question was called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that correspondence be sent to People First, thanking them for their letter advising the town of Yarmouth does not have available space for non-profit organizations.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? That would just be one counselor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Stay with us, everybody. Committee of the Whole, March 4th, 2014. Deputy Mayor.
I move that, as recommended by staff, the lease agreement be accepted for sidewalk cafes within the town of Yarmouth in the amount of $1.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been
Question.
called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that staff be directed to review corporations/committees/boards to investigate where finances could be streamlined.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that Mayor Mood invite the chairman of the board of CanAmed to visit the town of Yarmouth.
Now, hang on a second. For some reason, I had written site planner down there because we had a little bit of, okay? Sorry. Go ahead, CAO.
Yeah, we had a discussion earlier about the persons whom would be doing site selection decisions for CanAmed, and that perhaps the way to approach this is to approach the company, get in touch with the person who does the site selection, begin a dialogue, and if in fact there is a real opportunity, then a site visit would be an obvious invitation to issue. But rather than invite them and then say, so what do you guys need? Let's have the discussion first and begin that productive dialogue. As we discussed.
Yeah.
Councillor Dawes, your light's on there. Did you have a question?
So how are we going to treat this then? Are we then going to amend this for it to read for Mayor Mood to speak with whoever in the company is tasked with being the site selector before inviting the what?
I just want to know where to go with this. I don't want to pass a motion that's...
Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to pass this motion, I wouldn't think, today the way it is. You might want to table it.
Yeah, we table it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to
Yes.
table. Okay.
Yeah.
We vote on that? Yes. Thank you, Solicitor. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
But if we table this to the next meeting, we're stalling on this. We till to next week. We got a committee meeting next week.
Go ahead,
The-
CAO.
So if I could just
You
respond
go
to
ahead.
that. My intention in tabling this motion was because it refers specifically to the president or chairman of the board and a site visit. And in the meantime, we would carry through with the steps that we talked about this afternoon.
Oh, okay, great. So this is not going to stall anything. This is just motion here is we got more detail this afternoon on this. So we're going to follow up what we discussed this afternoon. So this motion here is mute anyway. Okay, great.
If I can be so bold to suggest, personally, I think we simply should vote down the motion, get it off the books.
That's right.
And then either craft a new motion, because this was an old motion. It's from CanAmed. CanAmed is, I think, found their spot. We were talking about other companies that are coming to Nova Scotia today, so we maybe want to be a little bit more proactive. So My suggestion, Your Worship, is I'm going to vote against the
I
motion.
think I will too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the end of it.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor that I invite the chairman of the board, CanMed, to visit the town of Yarmouth. Any more discussion? Question's
Question.
been called. All those in favor? Aye.
Well, he made the motion.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Go ahead, Deputy.
I move that staff be directed to review the request previously sent by the municipality of Yarmouth to sign a memorandum of understanding regarding green energy.
Second.
Question.
Yeah. How close are we on that? Because there's a meeting on Tuesday. The memorandum of understanding for the green. Oh, that's what I thought. Okay. Oh, we can pass it. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Contrary, motion carried. Deputy Mayor?
I move that staff be directed to provide a breakdown of travel costs in this fiscal year for the mayor and councillors.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Worship. Pardon me. I remember when this first came out, came forward in January at the Committee of the Whole meeting, and it has since gotten a lot of airtime. A lot of people have called and commented on it. Now, my question is, couldn't we add to this that we would go back and post from April 1st, 2012 onward?
We've already decided.
We've gone from 2014 to 2013. Why don't we just go to 2012, right from our very first year, and get it over with, and just post it on the website as such?
Is this one of the, this?
Go ahead.
This is.
It's just changing one more number, one more
Well,
time.
I'm going
That's
to.
all.
This is the, oh, you're on.
Councillor Dawes, what we did is, it's a staff concern. If I recall the meeting correctly, Mr. Varon, we thought by going back, I think it's just a set period of time. The original motion was to start it as of April the 1st of this fiscal year. It was decided at the last meeting, could we go back one more fiscal year to go back to April 1st, 2013? And Mr. Varon said, yes, that was doable. It would take a little effort, but it was doable. And in the discussions we had, we thought, well, okay, you get a good enough picture. You're going back a year. You know, what you do one year, do the next. And that's why we took it, because we just don't want staff to spend a lot of time getting all this stuff out. But I mean, if your wish is to go back further, that's something that council would consider. But as far as I'm concerned, you're showing what you're doing. You know what I mean, from April the 1st, from the start of the fiscal year 2013, and from now on to 2014.
Councillor Dawes?
I would, if we're going to do it, then I said right from the beginning, if we're going to do it all the way. So I would feel comfortable in suggesting that we go back and post from April 1st, 2012 on. Okay, then I will make that amendment.
Okay.
Need a seconder?
Second, can I have a seconder for the amendment to go back to 2012? Second by Councillor Dennis. Okay, and then we vote on,
We have to vote on the amendment first.
okay, discussion? Okay, go ahead.
My only concern is staff time. It's staff time here, and it's not a big deal? Oh, if it's not a big deal, then I got no problem. If that's not a big issue, then go for it.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment first. If that passes, we vote on the amended motion. Okay? So we're voting on the amendment to go back to 2012, April 2012. Okay? Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And on the first, on the amended motion, okay? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy Mayor?
I move that staff be directed to review the current street vendors bylaw.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move
Deputy?
that council take back the Kistics plan for the Waterfront Development Corporation, review it, and begin the process of implementing it from the council table.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy?
I move that staff be directed to review best practices from other towns.
You good with that? The topic was, were we not, we were at a committee the whole meeting, and we were kind of looking at the different ways to save money, and there was quite a number of.
Yes. Yeah.
Your worship? What? Yeah. Okay, 1 second.
And I think that was
Councilor
in regards, Jeff, to, I know when yourself and Jerry go to the AMA meetings, just to consult with your fellow counterparts and see, bring back what their best practices are in that area, and I think that was increasing the tax base. You were right.
So are we amending this to read increase? Okay, all right. Councilor?
No, I have just another question, but after this.
All right, perfect. Okay, so that staff be directed to review best practices from other towns. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Yes, sir.
Just a point of information, and I went over quickly. Jim, is the Waterfront Development Corporation, they're okay with the Kestics plan move? There wasn't a great riot and demonstration and the threats to jump off the wharves or anything on that?
We've had there was some discussion. There will be an ongoing discussion, but I think everyone at that level realizes that the town is going to look after the administration of that plan now. And of course, whatever resources the town needs, if they happen to come from the volunteers who are active on the waterfront development, then they will get that support.
Because I can't stress enough, the intent here was to let the Waterfront Development Corporation do what it does best. And I can't say enough what a wonderful job that body has done in the down on the waterfront. And it's kind of nice to see them continue focusing there, and then we can go the next step. So just thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Good?
Good.
All right. Citizen advisory committees.
There's motions
We have,
from the
yes, that's right.
earlier today, maybe?
Yeah, I just missed that page. Go ahead, Deputy.
Only happened today. I move that Councillor Dawes be appointed as a member of the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation.
Alternate member. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Go ahead.
No,
Councilor
alternate
McIsaac.
means when a committee member doesn't attend, and she would be called for the alternate. That's what that means? Okay, thank you.
That's for voting purposes.
For
That is
voting purposes.
Yeah.
Good, okay. Moved and seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy?
I move that staff be directed to begin development of a policy for the Mayor's Fund, usage of town credit cards, and any travel allowances used by the town, with the understanding that this could be part of a travel and expense policy if staff so deems.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
I
It
move.
was simply, it's simply to put things in policy, because they were just passed by motion years ago. So really don't have the right to go from year to year. So when you put it in policy, it is. Doesn't mean it'll change, just means it'll be under a policy. You're welcome.
I move that funding be approved to send 4 representatives to the Saltscapes Expo from April 25 or 25th to April 27th, 2014, to work at the booth for the 3-day session.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy?
I move that staff be directed to request Yarmouth Life Skills to assist with the application of stickers to the cans donated by IMO Foods for the Saltscapes Expo, with a small donation given to their organization.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Good. Now, are we now at citizen advisory? Planning Advisory Committee, Deputy Mayor. Recommendations to council.
We have recommendations as a result of the public hearing earlier this evening. The first recommendation is to approve amendments to the land use bylaw to rezone 19 Kemp Street from institutional I-1 to low-density residential R1 as outlined in the planner's report.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? CAO?
Jeff.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear that what you're doing here is you're simply rezoning the single lot as it exists today. That subdivision, the development plan that was put up there was to give you an idea of their intent, but that is not approved and they're not obligated to carry through with that as a result of simply rezoning the property.
Good? Any questions, any discussion? You good? Questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Carried. Yeah, Deputy, we're good.
B, okay. I move to approve amendments to the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw to enable convenience stores, personal service shops, and restaurants in any designation by development agreement as outlined in the planner's report.
I just want to, the planner's report said, is this where it said those main throughways? Arterial streets? CAO, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. The planner's report, and this is specific to arterial streets, and there was a map in the planner's report on page 20, which showed in a color in green which properties in the town of Yarmouth would currently this could currently apply to, and there was a concern expressed at the public hearing about the Heritage District, and there are no properties within the Heritage District that could be affected by this amendment.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. One nay. Deputy Mayor? Motion approved. Go ahead.
Now, from the Planning Advisory Committee of February 25th last month, several items. A, to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw, in particular the zoning map, Schedule A, thereby rezoning a portion of 126 Brunswick Street from open space to low-density residential as outlined in the planner's report.
So moved. Seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. What's that? What?
No, I'm sorry, no.
You know what that one is?
No, I don't.
The old, is that not the old school?
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. But is that portion of the property it's on Brunswick Street, is that, you're in trouble now.
No, it's a portion. It's a portion of 126.
It's those 6 feet that the,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, it's the additional 6 feet. No, I'm in trouble.
Do we just vote on that?
Sorry, hold you up.
Okay, Deputy Mayor? No, I can't,
That-
did,
it-
we voted.
We
Okay,
voted.
so you're up, Deputy.
So we're on B.
B, yes, thank you.
I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, enter into a development agreement in order to establish a personal service shop, convenience store, and a restaurant up to a maximum combined area of 3,000 square feet in gross commercial floor area, as well as residential dwelling units at 54 Haley Road, as outlined in the proposed development agreement of the planner's report.
So moved. Seconded. Any discussion? CAO?
Okay, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the public hearing. This is the site-specific development agreement. So urge you and the public to review this document, because this is what is being proposed for 54 Haley Road specifically, and not any of the other properties that would be eligible for development agreement.
That's the agreement that's here.
That's right, and so that will be subject to a public hearing that will be scheduled and advertised ahead of the next council meeting.
Good, so moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question.
Questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Nay. Motion carried. One nay. Deputy?
I move to receive and place on file the municipal planning strategy review process, the housing in our communities, a quick look at the numbers, and in search of safe and affordable housing, Yarmouth County Statistics Fall of 2013 reports.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
The last item, Your Worship, from the Planning Advisory Committee, I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw to enable the creation of a health and wellness designation and subsequent health campus zone for the Yarmouth Regional Hospital Center, as outlined in the planning report.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. You got that, Linda? Moved and seconded. Discussion. Questions been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. You good, Deputy? Good. Communities in Bloom recommendations, Councillor Langell, go ahead.
Hopefully, these aren't too controversial. Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion recommendation from the Communities in Bloom Committee that the Town of Yarmouth adopt the dates of April 21st to April 28th inclusive, 2014, as the official cleanup week, and that the town staff be directed to work with Waste Check, Communities in Bloom, and the many volunteers that will be engaged in beautifying the town.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Second recommendation is that we're move that we direct staff to repair or replace the rotting garden boxes on the Brown Street and Collins Street parking lots with temporary structures or more permanent until more permanent structures can be constructed in keeping with any parking lot revitalization plan, and I'll speak to that motion in a second. There's some concern in the Brown Street parking lot. The containers are in pretty hard shape. And we would like to recommend that we do either a temporary fix so the garden club can do their magic that they do in that area, and also the same thing with the Brown Street parking lot. We understand, I'm sorry, with the Collins Street parking lot. The Brown Street parking lot is in the middle of a revitalization, or they're going to be doing their project there, but there was a question over time frame, whether it'll be done, you know, during the summer or whenever. So the thought was to have like even like a temporary structure there that can be moved and we can use it elsewhere. So that was the purchase. Yeah, if they can. Some of them are a little sketchy, I understand. So that was the concern. Yeah.
Councillor Mooney?
And I think Councillor Langelo's being chair of Communities in Bloom. I think we have our parks person is on there, Rodney Doucette, and Rodney had some ideas for the Brown Street location, so I'll support the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Did you have another one there?
Yes, we do. Thank you. If I can unstick it here. Peepers. Just wanted to bring to council's attention that our Peeper project is now live. Communities in Bloom's been working on this for, I guess it's going on 2 years. And what it is, it's a promotional thing that we're looking at. The website is yarmouthpeepers.com. Thanks to town staff who drew an amazing interactive map. Our computer programmer and designer developed a website, yarmouthpeepers.com, where you can go to. And on this website, you'll be able to see the location of every peeper location in the town of Yarmouth. We'll be placing signs like this up at these locations so people will know this is a peeper site. And as we all know that in the spring, Your Worship, it gets pretty loud in some of those areas. So we're trying to promote active, healthy living. It's another direction we're going in, and there are, I believe, 9 really good sites in Yarmouth that you can hear these little devils. And we're encouraging people to get out, walk, run, bike, motorcycle, whatever you want. Turn the engine off when you're listening to them. So that's what's going on.
People that move into, that buy the home. Thank you, Your Worship. The people that are going to buy those beautiful apartments that are going to be built on the side of the golf course are going to have their own personal, private audio show of those every day and every night. Because they're right across the street from us, and they are audible. Well, wherever there's marsh, wherever it's wet, they like to be, yeah.
And I should add, Your Worship, that we have stickers that are done up, decals that can be put in different windows and stores. You'll be seeing these all over town eventually, so they're being made as we speak by local EL&N signs. And the second item that we're looking at is we've done fairly well with our Communities in Bloom. Yarmouth has won 5 Blooms consecutively, 3 national awards. So those of you who are looking at our vehicles, they're a little tired. We have, some of them still have the Yarmouth Winter Wonderland on them, and these are the new logo stickers that we're proposing to put on the vehicles this summer. And also there'll be stickers to go in merchant windows, etc. The committee is recommending Yarmouth a proud community in bloom, because that's what we are. We've done amazing jobs from towns in Canada our size. We've always been up there. So this year we're hoping to win the national award. So I just wanted to mention that people will be seeing these around as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good. Thank you. So did we vote on the April 21 to 28?
Yes.
Okay, good. Municipal corporations, police advisory board recommendations, read goals and priorities. Councillor Landro.
Your Worship, I apologize for not getting this out early. One of the reasons I was delaying is I was waiting for the wording for the policies and goals from the RCMP on this, and it came a little bit late. But anyway, so here's what we've got, and this is more or less a motherhood statement. Every year, for the benefit of council, the Police Advisory Board meet with the staff sergeant and our staff, and we come up with the goals and the objectives for policing in our community, taking into consideration a lot of concerns that residents have. So I would like to make the motion that the Town of Yarmouth accept the following as the priorities and goals for the Yarmouth Town Detachment of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for 2014-2015. Be it said, Yarmouth Town Detachment primary function will always be the response to calls for service and conducting criminal investigation. That's our top priority, always. In addition, each year the Nova Scotia Department of Justice identifies areas of public safety that require a strategic integrated focus, which gives rise to annual priorities. This year they are road safety, and you will see, Your Worship, more police vigilance, especially with cell phones. We've had a lot of concerns with that. Also, people rolling through stop signs. That'll be a little bit more vigilant there. Cyber crime. This is cyberbullying. we will be doing much more active in the Yarmouth area on that, and the cybercrime unit will be coming into the area, so that'll be quite exciting there. Crime reduction with a focus on youth, and we are going to be putting some youth initiatives in the area to try to get crime reduction under control, vandalism, etc. And finally, warrant reduction, and that, of course, is the various warrants. The RCMP is committed to focusing on these priorities and goals and incorporating local issues through effective education, prevention, and enforcement. That is my motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor?
Ken, I just might admit part of that, but this is the police making these recommendations. Okay. Yeah.
I'll explain how this goes, Jim. The RCMP provincially come up with goals that they see as key. They are then passed down to the staff sergeant. Then locally, our police advisory board will sit down, and that's on that board is Jim Saxton, myself, Councillor Dawes is on that committee, the CAO, and Sonia Ryan and the mayor. We sit down and review those with the input from the RCMP and from his detachment, and therefore these are relatively general. I think the biggest concern they have is accountability. Like, they're able to track this and say, okay, we were able to reduce youth crime this much. We were able to help make the streets safer this much. That's the whole goal. And I don't know whether Mayor Moon wants to comment on that, but that's basically what it is. It's basically a motherhood, but it gives them a guideline for what we see as the priorities in the town.
Yeah, that's it. It's good.
I got a question, Your Worship.
Certainly.
Not on that specific.
Go ahead.
Not on that specific topic, but with the RCMP. What's the process? I know Mr. Surratt's taken a promotion. What's the process for replacing the staff sergeant? Is there any input from the town, or is that done through the RCMP circles?
I can answer that after we get this motion out of the way, just to clear it off the board, Your Worship.
Okay, so
Question. I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship, and again, CAO and Your Worship, please chime in. Yes, Sergeant Surratt has been posted to the county detachment, so he's in our area. He'll be like the grand commander of the area, so he'll still be working with our town and in the area. And the way he explained it to our board is that there will be an internal hunt first, like they're going to see if there's somebody internally within the area that may want the posting that qualifies in the sergeant level. That would be similar in rank to him. If that person is available, then that'll be part of that game. If not, they will then move it to a competition in Atlantic Canada. In other words, they will announce, and this is where they call it a promotional post. In other words, this would be somebody of a lower rank who would see this as a promotion. So you're going to have your lateral moves first, people of similar rank. So a detachment commander of same rank to Kevin would maybe from another area, like, I don't know, I think wherever there's a sergeant, say hypothetically Digby or Shelburne or whatever, could laterally move in, say, hey, I want to come to Yarmouth. If there's none of those, they will then open it up to Atlantic Canada and go from there. But in many cases, there are people already seeing it. Yarmouth's a very desirable posting from what I understand, and it's a very desirable posting, and Kevin isn't worried about finding candidates. I think we'll have too many interested candidates, which speaks a lot for our town.
Good. Thank you.
Once they watch council meeting, they're hooked. Just saying.
Just another item to Your Worship, just for council's information. We did get some queries from the Tri-County Regional School Board regarding enforcement of school buses, people stopping. As you know, we are picking up the school children now and moving them to various points. And I just wanted people to know that we've got a 100% rate of prosecution on those. The difficulty we have is we don't get them all reported, and we encourage people, if you are in an area where you see a school bus and somebody's not obeying the law and stopping for the bus, just get the number and let the RCMP know, and we'll deal with it accordingly. But it is we've been quite successful on the ones that we've seen. They've been reported and they've been dealt with by the courts. And my only other final comment, Your Worship, was, and just information of council, maybe somebody's interested, the 6th Annual Crime Prevention Symposium is happening in Halifax on April the 9th, I believe. I'm going up with the Department of Justice, so I'm going to be there anyway, but it's a very informative. If anybody on council may be interested, it may be something to consider. Number one, the space is limited, so you would have to get that registration in like tomorrow. There's no registration fee. There's no registration fee for this, but it's quite an informative get-together. I haven't been to one in several years, but they have a number of really good workshops and sessions, and especially where we're dealing with crime reduction in youth, this is the big topic this year. So I'm just mentioning it to councillors for their information.
I'll make a motion that we send Councillor Dawes, a member of our Police Advisory Committee, to the crime symposium.
Admit it, you love me more, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Might I ask if you're interested? April 9th.
There's my cue. Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have a seconder?
Seconded by
Moved and seconded. Councillor Dawes is accepted. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. You good? Okay. Reports for information we have. The mayor's report is typed up and lost in cyberspace, but I'll find that. Questions for committee chairs? Anyone? Good. And then we have additions. So Jamie Bailey.
Jamie, Your Worship, I've been watching the news lately and reading the newspaper, and I've been listening to the comments of the leader of the opposition, Jamie Bailey, on he has some very clear and definitive ideas on amalgamation in regional government. So I'd like to make a motion, send an invitation to the Honourable Jamie Bailey to come to Yarmouth to discuss his ideas on regional or amalgamated governments.
That would be interesting.
Moved and seconded. Any
Question.
discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Go ahead. It is proposed procurement policy change.
Thank you, Your Worship. Earlier today, I had an opportunity to be at a meeting with several councillors for another area, and I'm going to throw this motion out for consideration because this is something that we've bandied around for years, and I've learned that Shelburne is doing it and Lockport is now doing it. So here's my motion, and it's